Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Became a Real-Life RPG Player? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. At 10 a.m. on a Saturday, Izuku Midoriya wakes up to a loud ping that didn't sound like his alarm clock. Congratulations, player Izuku Midoriya. It is your 10th birthday and as such the activation requirements for your quirk, the gamer, have been met. Apologies for the late acquisition of your quirk, it wasn't quite ready for use. To start the tutorial, say menu and tap help. The controls will be explained and the tutorial will begin from there. Tutorial quest, read the help guide in its entirety. Reward, 1 random skill book, 3000 EXP, 5 skill points. Penalty, none. This is what an unfamiliar jade-colored screen read. Izuku, being the curious little bean he is, did as the strange text said and with a new thirst for more information read what the entirety of the help screen had to offer. Welcome to the Help tab. Here you can find all of what you need to know to get started understanding your quirk. Let's start with attributes and what they mean. STR or strength is a measure of one's raw physical power. This influences the amount of damage dealt by one's melee attacks as well as how much one can physically carry. Note that this does not influence what or how much can be stored in inventory. VIT or vitality is your health and measure how much damage you can take before falling unconscious or being fatigued. DX or dexterity is a measure of one's coordination and fine motor skills. This determines how well one can perform tasks such as operating firearms or picking a lock. It helps when doing things that require a steady hand to be done well. AGI or agility is a measure of how fast one can move. This helps mostly with things like dodging attacks or completing tasks more efficiently. NT or intelligence is how book smart one is. Mathematics, memorization, strategic planning, ECT. These are all things that improve as one's INT rises. Things that generally use the logical left brain. Will or willpower is basically how stubborn you are. This attribute measures overall bravery of character. It helps to overcome fear as well as helps one find the courage to go on even if injured. This also influences how well one can break free from or avoid mental attacks such as brainwashing. WIS or wisdom is how street smart one is. This helps when learning magic and determining how much MP or magic points you have. It is also used to measure common sense. T or charisma is how good one is at interacting with others and or convincing them. When dealing with CHA-based skills, buffs, or debuffs, it helps strengthen the skills buffs by lengthening the time in effect. It also strengthens one's resistance to CHA-type debuffs. If you say the word status, you can see what your attributes are at the current moment. If you have a buff or debuff in place, the numbers rise and fall respectively, meaning they rise when under the effect of a buff and fall when afflicted by a debuff. Speaking of buffs and debuffs, let's discuss the latter of the two. PSN or poison happens when one is stricken by a venomous skill. The one you are most likely to encounter at this time is a bite from a snake, which if venomous can be treated at hospital with a ready supply of anti-venom. Never try to SCK the poison out. This debuff affects a person by continuously chipping away at a person's HP or health points until the PSN effect is removed in some way. CA or charmed can be caused by charisma-based skills. This simply affects a person in the way that those under C can't say, "oh," to the caster. It's a really straightforward debuff. Can be cured by either running out the timer or a negative status clearing skill. BLND or blinded can be caused simply by having one's vision temporarily or permanently obstructed. Things like smoke from a fire or a snowstorm can cause this status. Various other magic and skills can also cause this effect. Can be cured by removing the obstruction, letting the timer run out, or a negative status clearing skill. BRN or burned is caused mainly by fire, but chemical burns can also cause this effect. Depending on the degree of burn, simply running it under cold water could help, but for 2nd to 3rd degree burns, use a healing skill or go to a hospital. No status clearing skill can heal the BRN status of a 2nd to 3rd degree burn because it is too large a physical injury. Con or confused is sometimes accompanied by BLD, as logic usually dictates that when one site is suddenly taken they tend to become confused. Can be cured with either a status clearing skill or carefully explaining their confusion away. Par or paralyzed is caused by either too much electricity running through a body to the point that it paralyzes the nerves or a traumatic physical injury. Can be cured with a status clearing skill as long as it isn't the latter of the two. If it is, then use a healing skill to fix the damage or go to a hospital. BLD or bleeding is either caused by being cut or an injury is afflicted to the point that blood comes out any orifices. Let's talk about what is in the menu. Status shows things such as equips, attributes, money, level, EXP, titles, affinities, resistances, status buffs and debuffs. Inventory is a pocket dimension that has little limit in terms of space and weight. Things can be stacked as well. One such limit is that the stacks can only go up to another is that no sentient being can be stored. Plants are not included in this as they are not sentient. At least not in this timeline they aren't. Skills: this is just a list of the things you can do, a description of that ability, and its level, cost, acquisition requirements, things of that nature. Party is a function that essentially allows you to create a group of people connected by your quirk. This lets them see HUD and have a small boost in EXP gains. Map is in the simplest terms a map of the world, show where you are, where you've been, your destination, potential quests in a vicinity of 200 meters, and shows others' locations on said map. Quest log is another book, but this one simply tracks the progress of any quests you have going. Skill grimoire is a book of not yet obtained skills that can be purchased with skill points. You gain skill points when you level up and even sometimes as a quest reward. Crafting is as it sounds. It allows you to craft objects so long as you possess the proper materials. Settings: this allows you to control things like HUD or heads-up display, notification volume settings, how to issue commands to your quirk, who can see the screens. Basically, semi-important stuff. At the end of the explantation, another window popped up and read, "Tutorial quest completed. Now dispensing reward. Gained 3000 EXP. Gained Cure Heal skill book. Gained 5 skill points." Izuku's face lit up as he realized what this meant. "I have a quirk." Inko was in the middle of making breakfast when she heard her son yell from his room, "Mom! Mom!" As he sprinted into the room, he face planted and quickly got up again with his forehead now sporting a nice red blotch. "Oh, honey, are you okay? That sounded like a hard fall. What is it?" she said, her voice curious and worried. "It finally happened. I got my quirk," he yelled with a voice full of joy. His mother's face lit up in excitement. "Oh, Izuku, I'm so happy for you. What is it?" "We'll need to see the specialist and get it registered. First things first though, please explain. Come sit and tell me all about it," she exclaimed excitedly. He complied with a smile and sat. As he did, he got a new quest. Quest: tell mom about your quirk. Show her. Reward: 3000 EXP. Penalty: none. Accept, decline. I got a quest. It's to explain my quirk to you. Show you too, he told his mother. She looked confused, so he went into settings and changed who the screens were visible to like the help page taught him. "See? It's like those games I like. The role-playing ones," he stated as he turned the screen towards her. She had a curious look on her face as she read the help screen for herself. After a few minutes of reading, she responds with, "Well, it's thorough, that's for sure. It explains pretty well and is easy to prove. The user interface seems easy to use too. I have one request with this though. Until it becomes necessary to remove me, I would like you to add me to your party. I want to have the peace of mind as your mother that I can check on you even when you aren't physically here with me. Is this reasonable?" she sternly requests. Her son nods. "Of course, Mom. Here." A screen appears before Inko reading, "Party request. Accept, decline." "Perfect. I'll explore that later. Make those appointments too, but first, breakfast," Inko says with smile to her son. Quest complete. Gained 3000 EXP. "Hello. This is Midoriya Inko calling to make an appointment for my son Midoriya Izuku. You wouldn't happen to have any openings for today, would you?" "Great. Yes, that is correct. Okay, yes. See you all soon. Thank you. Bye-bye. Izuku could hear from his mother as she finished making the appointment for the Quirk registrar's office. Only minutes before, she'd gotten off the phone with the Quirk specialist's office after booking me a last-minute appointment. Good news, honey, they were able to squeeze you in at 2:30 p.m. today. It's already 11:30 a.m. and we have that other appointment to the doctor at noon. Hurry along now and get dressed. We're cutting it close as is. Izuku's mother said, shooing him off to his room. 30 minutes later. Well, Mrs. Midoriya, what brings you two here today? The doctor said in a pleasant and polite tone. Why don't you tell him, honey? The woman suggested and received a grin and nod in return. Status. In an instant the jade-colored screen appeared for those in the room to witness, thanks to the settings Izuku set it to for the moment. The doctor's face fills with intrigue and minor surprise. It's called the Gamer. It gives me the abilities of a video game character along with the growth potential of one. It says it all in the help section. I am given quests, EXP, and everything that comes with a JRPG. It says I can even craft things as long as I have the right materials. It might just be easiest to have you read the help section for yourself. Izuku rambled happily. The doctor looked at Inko with a confused look and she just smiled, placing a hand on her son's shoulder. Izuku, maybe you should open the screen for him then. Remember, we still have an appointment with the Quirk registrar's office. She stated with a calm smile. Her son nods quickly and opens the screen for the doctor's inspection. After about 10 minutes of reading, the doctor was done and amazed at how much Izuku's Quirk explained to him. The doctor simply smiled and said, I'd like to conduct 2 tests to see if the hypothesis I have is right. It is simple. I want your son to look at a target item and a target person. I wish to see if when he concentrates hard enough he can activate or unlock a skill. I believe if he does this exercise specifically, he will gain a skill that lets him gain information from looking at a target. Is this acceptable? As the doctor finishes explaining, Izuku looks more and more excited. Yes, that should be fine. Inko agreed easily, causing her son to be even more excited. All right, let's get started. Perhaps we'll even accidentally discover something more. I am curious what information this may bring. The doctor then handed Izuku a mechanical pencil. All right, now I want you to concentrate carefully on the pencil. Maybe in the back of your thoughts think of what kind of information you want from the pencil, like brand or quality, things of that nature. Understand? He received a nod from Izuku and thus he began. For around 2 minutes nothing happened. Then at the start of the 3rd minute, a screen appeared. Mechanical pencil. Brand, Kurutoga. Quality, 5. Durability, 4150. A good quality mechanical pencil. Be careful when exploring item dungeons. Well, I did it, but I think I also did something else. Izuku said, looking at the doctor curiously. Skill acquisition notice. Gain skill. Observe. This skill allows the user to see the stats of anything, though is dependent on both level and, in the cases of sentient beings, closeness. Skill acquisition notice. Gain skill. Item dungeon. This skill allows the user to open a dungeon, a place where things like money, materials, and EXP can be obtained. Each dungeon depends on the quality of the item. Note that sentient beings cannot be used with item dungeon. Oh wow. Mrs. Midoriya, this is amazing. I'm not sure what to say other than that we should try the other test I presented. It said that the information was based on his level with the skill and closeness if the target is human. Though I suspect that particular part may change as he becomes more proficient with the skill. Anyway, since you are his mother and are close, would you be willing to help test this? Then he may use it on me to get the complete result. Will this be okay? The doctor asks pleasantly. Inko agrees and they begin the last 2 tests. Observe. Inko Midoriya. 37. Quirk, attraction of small objects. HP, 150-150. MP, 200-200. CR 27. 10. Dex 16. Will 25. 60. Whis 45. Cha 36. Tai 27. Wow. Mom is very smart. Is it because you're a lawyer? Observe is now level 2. Oh. Observe leveled up. I guess that means the more I use a skill the stronger it gets. My question though is if observe is passive or active because it didn't feel like I was really trying the second time using it. It felt almost automatic, so I wonder if it is passive. For using logical thinking to come to a correct conclusion, +2 to int. Even doing things like that can increase my stats? So then if I work out or go for a run, I'd likely gain stats points in STR or VIT. For coming to a correct conclusion, +1 to int. Well, that answers that. Shall we see what you get from using observe on me? The doctor inquired. Izuku gave him an eager nod and looked at him for a few seconds before another similar jade screen appeared. Observe. Takao Kazunari. Age 43. Quirk, Hawkeye, gives the user the spatial perception and vision level of a hawk. Well, that seems to prove my theory. Little Midoriya is able to gather information passively just by looking at things, and the amount of information he gets when concerning sentient beings, as his quirk words, it is dependent on both relationship and skill level. When it comes to inanimate objects, he can see things such as durability, quality, and the name of the object as of level. I'd say just keep practicing on random items. I also advise keeping the screens hidden from everyone but yourself and maybe those in your party. Okay, Mrs. Midoriya, I've got everything I need. All that's left is to head to the front desk to finish up a couple pieces of paperwork. I know you said you still have another appointment to keep. I'll walk you to the front desk. Thanks, doctor, for taking care of us today. Izuku said with a little polite bow. No problem. He replies and turns to Inko. If he has any problems, we are here to help as much as we are able, so, please. He says to her with a polite smile. She returns the gesture and thanks him as they finish those last bits of paperwork mentioned. Thank you, doctor. Have a good day, she says as they leave the office. Now time for the registrar appointment, right, Mom? Izuku questions as they buckle their seatbelts. Right. Inko and Izuku arrive at the Quirk registry office just before their appointment time to sign in. Minutes later they were called back and Izuku had already leveled up observe to level 6 just by observing every item in the waiting room. Okay, I'm told you'll be registering your Quirk today. Well, let's get started. For the record, what is your name and date of birth? Midoriya Izuku. July 15th, 20XX. Alright. Now, what would you like to name your Quirk and what is its ability? My Quirk named itself. It's called the Gamer and it basically makes me a video game character in the fact that I have a menu I can access whereas other people do not, unless they join my party. Even if they join my party though, they don't have access to some things that I do. In menu I have access to these things. Izuku states as he writes down his abilities. Menu access. Status allows me to see and distribute my attribute points, as well as see any status conditions. Inventory is a pocket dimension that only I can access. Each slot can hold a stack of 999 items with the number of slots being infinite. Skills. These are abilities that I gain through performing certain actions like my passive skill observe. It allows me to see the stats of anything and anyone depending on my level with said skill and closeness when it comes to sentient beings. I obtain this skill through concentrating on one object and thinking of gaining information on it. Party. This tab allows me to give access to the very basics of my quirk such as status viewing, point distribution, and a small EXP boost to up to 50 people. Quest log. This tab lists any quests I've accepted plus the progress and details of them. Map. This is simply a map that changes as I move and pinpoints things like potential quests, locations of party members. It also shows where you have been before. Skill shop. This is basically a shop with skills that cost something called skill points to purchase. I obtain skill points by leveling up and occasionally through quest rewards. Crafting. This allows me to create anything listed in the crafting menu so long as I have the materials. Settings allows me to adjust things like visibility to command types, volume, who can see the screens, things like that. Accelerated growth rate, which allows me to grow mentally and partially physically at an exponential rate compared to other people. The physical parts affected by this are things like muscle growth, flexibility, and healing rate. He wrote all of this down for the registrar and was given a shocked then disapproving look when he handed over his paper. Young man, you really shouldn't lie on this. the registrar said, giving Izuku a condescending look. Before Inko could go into Mother Bear mode, Izuku pulled up his screens with visible to others turned on. The attendant's face went from condescending to shocked to disgruntled in a matter of moments. I'll need to go get my superior. The boy has a dangerous quirk that I'm not qualified to evaluate, the smug-looking registrar said. He left before either Midoriya could respond, and a few minutes later a more professional-looking, older man walked into the room wearing a serious look. Hello. My name is Ida Teramesa, head of the Mustafu Branch Quirk Registry Office. First, I would like to apologize for how unprofessional our soon-to-be former employee was to you and your son. He has been discriminatory like this twice before, and this was his third strike. Thank you for your patience and my apologies for his abhorrent behavior. Second, he was only partially right about needing to come get me. I am called when a strong quirk appears, among other reasons. My being here merely means that your quirk might be noticed early on. I will say, young man, that I applaud how diplomatically you handled his behavior. Thank you for being the bigger person even though you shouldn't have had to do so. Mrs. Midoriya, thank you for raising him so well. Lastly, I will be personally finishing the filing of your quirk so that I can be sure nothing else goes wrong, and as a courtesy to you too. Now, shall we sit and continue this meeting? The man finishes his stern and polite speech with a pleasant and reassuring smile. Turn receives a smile in return from Izuku, as well as a polite thank you from both mother and son. Yes, sir. That will be fine. Apology accepted. Inko stated and sat back down calmly with Izuku beside her, nodding his agreement. Now, young Midoriya's quirk seems to be a mutant emitter hybrid in the fact that some of his abilities are passive and others active, correct? Yes, sir. I can't choose or change what abilities are passive and active. I was also told by Dr. Takao that it would be best for me to keep the screens turned to party visible only or user visible only. By doing that, either only my party or just can see the screens. Izuku told the man with a more serious face. That's good. Please do that. Also, please try not to use observe on heroes. The man is cut off by Izuku. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to do that without avoiding heroes entirely. Observe is listed as passive. On the upside, I plan to be a hero anyway. Always have. My best friend and I promised each other we would be a hero duo together, and that hasn't changed. Sorry to interrupt, sir. The man smiled as though reassured. Then I suppose it is unavoidable. Then I'd ask something different of you. I hate to ask this of you and your mother so young, but should you see any information on corrupt heroes, I ask that you report it to the commission immediately. Off the record, I'm sure you, Mrs. Midoriya, are aware just how corrupt systems like these can get. If your son's quirk can tell him these things, it would be a great service to the country to let us know such information so we can root out any problems. Now, I'm not asking him to seek out these things. No, not one bit. I am simply requesting that should he come across any information like this to report it. Will you allow him to do this? Please, Mrs. Midoriya. The older man begged earnestly. Inko stared shocked at him for a moment, then her face softened and turned to her son. What do you say, Izuku? I think this is a good step in the direction you want to take. I would allow it so long as you promise to only report it and leave the rest to professionals. No vigilante-style justice. She could already see the beaming smile on his face. Quest notice. Status. Permanent. Corrupt heroes. Passively obtain information on corrupt heroes and report it to the nearest commission branch. Reward. 100 EXP based on rank of hero, 1 skill point, if hero is in top 100, dependent on rank. Failure. Corrupt heroes continue to run free and damage society even further. Accept decline. Yes. I can definitely do that, Mom, Ida-san. I will do my best and promise to try not to purposefully seek it out. It not registered as a quest. Izuku relayed, both excited and confused. The two adults smiled, one with a motherly pride and the other in relief. Ida-san turned to Inko as he stood and bowed deeply. Thank you, ma'am, for allowing this, and thank you, young Midoriya, for accepting as well as your future service to the country. I will keep only my own superiors in the loop so we can provide assistance should he need it. I look forward to seeing your career blossom, Izuku Midoriya. With the visit done, the mother-son duo set off towards the home of the Bakugu family. While on their way to the Bakugus, Inko gets a call from Mitsuki. Hey Mitsuki. I'm on my way to yours now. Izuku and I have some amazing news. I'm driving so I can't talk right now. We'll be there in around 15 minutes. That okay? Inko tells Mitsuki quickly over the speakerphone. Yeah. I was just calling to tell you Katsuki was wanting a playdate. That's perfect. I'll let you go. Drive safe. See you when you get here. Mitsuki replied. Gotcha. Bye-bye. Inko says as she ends the call. Inko glances at Izuku through the mirror. Ready to tell everyone the news? You must be so excited to tell Katsuki. What do you plan to show him first? I'm planning on adding him to my party first. You know, so that he can see the screens and we can do quests together. I hope I can get more quests. They've been pretty fun so far. I can check the map. It shows me potential quest locations. I'll do that when we get there though so Kaken can join. Izuku then proceeded to mumble quietly the rest of the car ride there. When they arrived he was startled out of his mumble fest by the car stopping. He quickly unbuckled his seatbelt and darted out of the car toward the house. Kaken. I'm here. I brought great news too. Katsuki was outside in seconds tackling Izuku into a hug where they toppled to the floor, giggling. What's up Zu? What happened? I got my quirk. It's 6 years late but I got my quirk. Izuku announces excitedly. Katsuki's face lit up at that statement. Fuckin', finally. I thought I'd have to protect your butt forever. Now we can be a hero duo together. Hey brat. Why don't you and Izuku go up to your room and talk about his new quirk? Yeah, whatever old hag. Come on Zu. Katsuki replies to his mother as he grabs Izuku's hand and drags him into the house. Meanwhile, Mitsuki, Inko and Masaru greet each other and head to the living room to talk about things and hang out. Upstairs, Katsuki shut his door and plopped down on his bed waiting for Izuku to sit down. Izuku sits down and immediately starts explaining to Katsuki the basics of his quirk as well as the party function. He then invites Katsuki to join his party. Party invitation notice. Bakugu Katsuki. Would you like to join Izuku Midoriya's party? Accept, decline. Hell yes. Acceptance confirmed. Bakugu Katsuki has been added to the party menu. Now what? Katsuki questions. Izuku thinks for a moment and remembers. Oh, I have a skill book and a bunch of unused points. Wanna help me figure out what to do with them? Izuku asks excitedly. Katsuki gets a curious glint in his eyes as his own inner nerd shows itself. He nods his agreement and they begin their little explorations of Izuku's quirk mostly. They decided to wait until another day to dedicate to Katsuki's quirk so as to have more time with it. In the end, they agreed that for now these stat changes make the most sense. Status notification. For 10 greater than 20. AGI 14 greater than 17. Dex 10 greater than 12. Points successfully allocated. Great. Now, you said something about a skill book you acquired? Let's check it out. Katsuki said enthusiastically. Right. Izuku agreed with a happy shout. Inventory. Carrot items. Skill book, Cure Heal X1. V equipment. V materials. Notice. Use skill book, Cure Heal? Yes, no. Note, skill book will disappear upon use. Also note that reading the contents of a skill book may help the user better understand the skill. Kaken. It seems I can either manually read a skill book and possibly understand the skill better or automatically gain the skill but not how to really use it. I think I should read it. What do you think? He explained briefly. Katsuki gave him a nod of agreement and sat down with Izuku reading the skill book and Katsuki exploring his own screens via party menu. It was a thin booklet that didn't take long to read in its entirety. Izuku was done within 20 minutes and once he finished, he received another notice. New skill obtained. Cure Heal has been obtained. By reading the skill book manually, 1 level automatically gained for Cure Heal. Cure Heal is now level 2. Oh wow. That helped more than I thought it would. It was basically a magical energy first aid how to book. It also explained how to use mana easier. Maybe if I use mana that isn't healing but Just in general, I can unlock something similar. Izuku rambled in a neutral tone. For coming to a logical conclusion, +2 to INT. Oh yeah, I forgot that was a way to raise stats. Kaken. Izuku shouts, startling Katsuki out of his own concentration. What zoo? I almost forgot something important about raising stats. By doing certain actions like strength training or maybe gymnastics, you can raise your stats that way too. I can't believe I forgot about that. Izuku explained excitedly as Katsuki's eyes widened and a smile spread onto his face. Oh hell yeah. Katsuki. Language. Mitsuki shouted from downstairs. They both grinned and ran downstairs to their mothers. Mom hag. They shouted in unison as they got downstairs. The two mothers looked at them questioningly. What's up, rats? What's got you so excited? Mitsuki asked them, Inko nodding in agreement. They grinned even harder and gave their best puppy eyes, saying, We would like to sign up for martial arts and gymnastics, please. This was not what the mothers were expecting but were pleasantly surprised. The mothers looked at each other and smiled. Inko spoke up this time and grinned at them knowingly. Can you promise us you'll both stick with it and give it your all? Not so much that you work yourselves sick, but just the right amount. They boys turned to each other and nodded, looking serious. On our honor as future pro heroes. We promise to not overwork ourselves and still do our best. They spoke with pride and determination in their voices. Izuku then told his mom he got a new skill and wanted to test it a little. Kaken? Do you still have that huge scrape from a couple days ago? I want to see if I can heal it with my new skill. Izuku asked his friend. He received a nod of confirmation and approval to give it a shot. Izuku then sits down with Katsuki's arm held out in front of him. He takes a deep breath and pictures energy flowing through his veins and out of his hands, surrounding the arm like a cloud of gaseous light. He then imagines the veins and skin knitting back together like the book said. He opens his eyes just in time to see his skill doing its job and knitting the skin back together. He feels the drain a little bit and is hungry after, but his friend's wound is healed. MP 325-350. Minor wound successfully healed. Minor infection successfully healed. Common cold successfully healed. Cure heal is now level note. As any skill levels up, it becomes easier and less draining to use. Oh, I had a cold and an infection? Thanks, Zoo. The hag says that infections are no joke and can be really bad if left alone. I also didn't even know I had a cold. I hate those, they make my quirk act up. Katsuki gushed and hugged Izuku, earning Katsuki a large sunshine smile that he could help his friend. Good job, Izuku. I didn't know you had that skill. Is it new? Inko exclaimed excitedly. He nodded shyly and explained that he got a skill book for his very first quest and completely forgot about it until a few minutes ago. That reminds me, I still have all of my skill points. Why don't we check that out together? I want all of your opinions on it. Should I turn on viewable to all so Auntie Mitsuki can see? Mitsuki just waves her hand and says she's gonna go help Masaru with dinner since it's getting to be around that time. Izuku nods and the remaining three of them sit on the couch looking at the screen for his skill grimoire. Skill grimoire. Telekinesis, 10 SP, allows the user to use a base level telekinesis that grows with practice. Allows for moving objects up to 10 kilograms 22 pounds at level MP cost 10, active skill. Fire breath, 10 SP, allows the user's lungs and throat to be fireproof, also adding a small ignition organ inside the mouth. This skill, as it is titled, allows the user to breathe fire. Can also eat flames to regain HP only. MP cost 5, active skill. Artisan, 5 SP, lowers the amount of materials needed to craft items as well as improves the quality of said items and increases drops for materials by 3x within item dungeons. Passive skill. Economy, 5 SP. Increases chances of coming into money and increases the chance of a discount in all purchases. Based on Seiche attribute, increases money drops within item dungeons. Passive skill. Oh, I think I know what I want. What do you two think? Izuku asks his mother and best friend. The two just look at each other and nod, both thinking along the same lines. Inko answers him. I think that the best way to go might be to get both economy and artisan. That way you have enough points left over to get either fire breath or telekinesis. I personally think fire breath would be the way to go because for now telekinesis might not be suitable for exploring item dungeons. Plus the MP cost for fire breath is half the cost of telekinesis. She explains logically. Katsuki is nodding all the while, confirming he was thinking the same thing. Izuku smiles at them. I was just thinking the same. I guess that's settled then. Fire breath skill book acquired. Economy skill acquired. Artisan skill acquired. 0 skill points remaining. So active skills when bought are given through a skill book and passive skills are given automatically. Interesting. That gives me a chance to understand Dad's quirk better. I should read it now. It doesn't seem long, just like the last one. I can probably finish it before dinner. Can I, Mom? Please? He says to her with his best puppy dog eyes. She smiles at him and nods. He immediately takes the book from his inventory and starts reading carefully through it. Katsuki has just been watching this scene with a fond smirk on his face. That says, "You damn nerd." Not even half an hour later, Izuku is done with the book and getting the notification. Fire breath skill acquired. Fire breath skill is now level 2. Fire breath skill is now level 3. Due to both reading the skill book manually and genetic inheritance, fire breath skill automatically increases by 2 levels. I guess I would have gotten telekinesis at level 3 if I'd chosen it, making the weight limit around 30 kilograms or around 66 pounds. Wow. Maybe I missed out a little bit. Izuku contemplated. By coming to a logical conclusion, +2 to INT. Dinner is ready. It's curry tonight in celebration of Izuku getting his quirk. Mitsuki yelled from the kitchen. The three on the couch then start heading to the dining room. Itadakimasu. They all said as they dig in. Izuku and Katsuki sped through their dinner and eagerly waited for the adults to finish as well. Once the grown-ups were done with their food, the two asked their moms for permission to go to Dagoba Beach tomorrow. Why would you want to go there? All that's there is trash. Mitsuki asked, confused. Inko thought for a moment and got an idea of what they wanted and turned to the two boys. Let me guess, you two want to go there searching for things to use item dungeon on, right? She asked knowingly. She got her answer when they nodded excitedly. Next to her, Mitsuki just smiled and gave it some thought and they exchanged a look. I suppose you can go, but I'd prefer if you two were safe and prepared. Inko begins and Mitsuki continues. We want you two to wear a helmet along with elbow and knee pads. We know you two are older now, but at least the first time going into a new dungeon, wear them just in case. By the way, Masaru. She pauses and turns to her husband. I'd like you to go with them so if they need it they have an adult. Bring the first aid kit too. Mitsuki turns back to the boys. I know Izuku has his healing skill, but from what I have heard so far, it isn't infinite and we would rather not risk not bringing the first aid kit. You know, just in case. The two nod. Yes, ma'am. They responded with pouts on their faces. Masaru smiles fondly at the poorly disguised fretting his wife was doing. Inko giggles at her friend's behavior and says, Mitsuki, while I agree with you, at least let them be excited about their little trip. They are only 10 years old after all. Fine. Yeah. You're right. I should still let them be kids. Anyway, look at the time. If you two want to be up bright and early tomorrow for that trip, the Midoriyas need to go home and sleep. Mitsuki said, winking at Inko, and received a smile in return. Come, Izuku. If you want to have enough energy for tomorrow, you'll need to go to sleep early. Inko persuaded her son. He nodded and the two children hugged each other goodbye before the Midoriyas had to leave. After a short drive home, Inko and Izuku settle in for the night. Before going to bed, Izuku puts a small travel-sized first aid kit in his inventory after remembering what his Aunt Mitsuki said about his healing not being infinite. Once he is done, he lays out his clothes for tomorrow and snuggles into bed, falling asleep soon after. The next morning, 8 a.m. Sunday. Izuku. Time to wake up. You don't want to be late meeting up with Katsuki and Masaru, right? Inko shouts up the stairs. Izuku scrambled out of bed and threw on his clothes. Remember to brush your teeth and hair. His mother reminded him before he could even get to the stairs. Izuku slows down and heads to the bathroom to do just that. After he's done, he heads downstairs where his mom is waiting with the elbow and knee pads, plus the helmet as promised. Before we go, put these in your inventory for you to put on later, his mother said with a smile. Quest: learn about enchanting gear. Instructions: try to push magic into a piece of clothing or a weapon. Even a piece of jewelry. Reward: starter gear set. 5 iron ingots. 5 leather. Penalty: you have to figure out how to do it yourself. Accept decline? Accept. Izuku thought to his quirk. I know, Mom. I should get going before I'm late. Izuku replied. His mom frowned. If you're going to be in such a hurry that you don't sit down for breakfast, at least take these. His mother said as she handed him 3 medium-sized energy bars and about 5 bottles of cold water. He looked at them. Fat Gum brand energy bar. Recovers 200 HP. Recovers 300 MP. Adds nature resistance 1. Adds poison resistance 1. Limit +5 to resistances. Effects last 15 minutes for resistances. Stacks up to 1 hour 15 minutes. Effects are stackable. Resistances are temporary unless both are used within time limit. Bottled water. Adds water resistance 1. Adds fire resistance 1. Restores 100 HP. Restores 100 MP. Effects last 10 minutes for each bottle. Effects are stackable up to plus stacks up to 50 M. Hey Mom, this is so cool. Look. He shows his mom the screens and she is pleasantly surprised. Oh, well, isn't that wonderful? I still want you to eat one of them before you go into any dungeon though. We don't want you to go in hungry and parched, right? She said and received a nod in return. Izuku puts his snacks in his inventory for later. That energy bar is pretty overpowered. I wonder what other foods would do. Maybe spicy food would give fire resistance or poison resistance. Maybe even both. Izuku rambles in his head. For using logic and coming to the correct conclusions. +3 and yes. More points added to intelligence. He celebrated. Kaken is going to have max level poison and fire resist with how much spicy food he eats. Izuku thought offhandedly. He then heads out after giving his mom a kiss goodbye. 15-minute walk later, Dagoba Beach. Kaken. Uncle. I got a new quest. Izuku yelled as he ran towards them. Once he was in front of them, the father and son greeted him. Morning, Zoo. What's the quest? Katsuki asked. I need to learn about enchanting things. It says to push magic into some clothes, weapons, or jewelry. I think before we start looking for stuff to use item dungeon on, I can try to enchant the padding our moms asked us to wear. What do you think? Izuku rambles excitedly. Katsuki nods just as excited and pulls the protective gear from his backpack. Masaru is watching this whole scene with a smile and an eye on them. I'll start with yours. Kaken? Gotcha, Zoo. Good luck. Izuku then placed his hands on the helmet and pushed a bit of magic into it. He imagined it to be harder and more durable. Skill acquisition notice. Enchant. MP costs 20 per plus depending on what you imagine when using this skill and how much MP you use. The user can add up to +50 of any effect they want to any article of clothing, jewelry, or weapon they want. Limit of 5 different effects to any one item. Per +1 effect is dependent on what attribute is changed. 310-350 MP. Enchant successful. +1 to durability. +1 to defense. Martial arts helmet. Durability, 100 to 110. Defense, 30 to 40. Kaken, do you see this? Izuku exclaimed. Yeah, I see it, nerd. That's so cool. Katsuki said in awe. Masaru looks confused as the two boys ramble on about how cool it is. What happened, Katsuki? Izuku? He asked them. It was then that they realized they should probably add Bakugu's dad to the party so that he can keep an eye on them even when they are in the item dungeon. Uncle, join my party? Izuku asked, and then a screen appeared before Masaru. Katsuki kept shouting for him to click accept, so he did. A second later, he sees the notification screens in front of Izuku and as he reads them, develops a look of understanding. That's what's so cool. You know, Izuku, I played quite a few RPGs back when I was younger, so I should be able to figure out the controls myself. Why don't you and Katsuki finish doing that and eat the snacks I'm sure your mother told you to bring? We can start searching for things to use your quirk on afterward. Okay. They nodded and Izuku got to work. After an hour and down to 130-350 MP, the two boys had their newly enchanted gear with these stats. Katsuki's knee pads +2. +1 durability total 60 dur. +1 defense total 40 def. Izuku's knee pads +2. +1 durability total 60 dur. +1 defense total 40 def. Katsuki's elbow pads +2. +1 durability total 60 dur. +1 defense total 40 def. Izuku's elbow pads +2. +1 durability total 60 dur. +1 defense total 40 def. Izuku's helmet +2. +1 durability total 110 dur. +1 defense total 40 def. Alright Izuku, I can see your MP is low, so why don't you eat some of the snacks you brought and the three of us can start searching the piles. Okay? Masaru suggested. Izuku nods and eats one of the energy bars. +300 MP. +200 HP. Excess MP HP shall be stored in a secondary MP HP bar labeled AMP AHP. Once depleted MP HP consumption shall use the main bar and the secondary bar will disappear. 350 MP. Amp. 400 HP. 200 AHP. Oh. Well, I guess that solves that problem. Izuku mumbles. Solves what problem? Katsuki asked, confused. The problem of what happens to the excess MP or HP from recovery items. See? I have 350 MP and 400 HP total, but the energy bar restores 300 MP and 200 HP, so the excess got put into a temporary bar that once I use it it's gone for good and then it starts using my main bars of either MP or HP. Izuku explained. Masaru nodded as Izuku spoke and Katsuki seemed to get it after that. I didn't think about that. That would have been a waste if it didn't do that, huh? Katsuki said. Izuku and Masaru nod in agreement. Alrighty then. Let's start searching now that everyone is ready and remember to wear your gloves. There's a lot of scrap metal and broken glass here. Masaru announces. With that they set off to find trinkets that they can use Izuku's skill on. Status screen. Name, Midoriya Izuku. XP, 0-1000. Title, The Gamer. HP, 400. MP, 350. Attributes, Sir 20. Vit 15. Dex 12. 12. Int 29. Wis 15. Cha 13. GI 17. Attribute points, 0. Money 2000 yen. Skill points 0. Skills. Gamer's Mind Max. This skill gives the user immunity to common status ailments such as charm, anger, fear, sadness. Gamer's Body Max. This skill makes the body of the user that of a video game character and exponentially increases the growth rate of the user. Observe 620. This skill allows the user to see the stats of anything though is dependent on level and in the case of sentient being, closeness. At current level, without any acquaintanceship, the following can be seen on any given being. Name, title, level, quirk, last uses. Item Dungeon 110. This skill allows the user to open a dungeon, a place where money, materials, and EXP and be obtained. Each dungeon is dependent on the quality of the item. Note that sentient beings cannot be used with item dungeon. MP cost Cure Heal 310. This skill allows the user to heal minor and moderate wounds at the current level of MP cost Fire Breath 320. This allows the user's lungs and throat to be fireproof, also adding a small ignition organ within the mouth. This allows the user to breath fire as well as eat it to regain HP. MP cost 5 per minute. Artisan 110 lowers amount of materials needed to craft items as well as raises the quality of said crafted items. This skill also increases materials drops within item dungeons by 3x. Economy 110 increases the chances of randomly receiving a discount when shopping based on the CHA attribute. Currently at 13%. Increased money drops within item dungeons. Enchant 425. Depending on what you imagine when using this skill and how much MP you use, the user can add up to plus 50 of any effect they want to any article of clothing, jewelry, or weapon they want. Limit of 5 different effects to any one item. Per plus 1 effect is dependent on what attribute is changed. MP cost 20 per plus quest. Learn about enchanting gear complete. Now dispensing reward. Obtained starter gear gift pack. Obtained 5 iron ingots. Obtained 5 leather. The 3 individuals began searching through the piles upon piles of trash, and after about half an hour all of them had found at least one object to contribute. Katsuki brings back an old wiffle ball bat, Masaru found a tangled ball of wool, and Izuku found a dirty pre-Quirk era comic book. To decide what item to use first, they played rock paper scissors and in the round went to Masaru, so first up was the ball of tangled wool. Alright then. Izuku. Katsuki. Are you both ready? Masaru asked the boys. You bet. Hell yeah. They replied. I'll be going in with you the first time just in case. I brought a bat since my quirk isn't easy to use. He told the 2 kids. They nodded and made their last preparations for the dungeon crawl. Masaru had a durable backpack to carry the other first aid kit and a variety of snacks and other supplies. Okay. Everyone ready? Izuku asked excitedly. When he got 2 nods in response, he put the other 2 items in his inventory. Katsuki and Masaru held each other's hand as Izuku held Katsuki's free hand and had the tangled wool in the other hand. Item dungeon. In seconds the 3 of them were transported to what looked like a forest. Made of wool. The 3 took in their surroundings for a few moments before speaking. What the F dash? Was the only thing that left Katsuki's mouth. Masaru couldn't even blame him at that moment. Izuku was just awestruck. It was a little different than he thought it might be, but he wasn't complaining. Izuku turned to his other 2 party members. Well, let's go explore, he exclaimed as he looked at the other 2 with excited eyes. The father and son smiled and smirked respectively at Izuku's almost palpable energy. Sure, but remember to be on guard, Masaru reminded firmly. The 2 nodded and the 3 started down the rough path in front of them. In moments they were met with the sight of a large beehive, but made of wool just like the rest of the forest. The bees too were made of wool and oddly cute. They're cute. So round and squishy looking. I want to keep one. Izuku nearly screamed but hushed his tone at the last second. Observation notice. Woolly bee. This monster is just like any other bee for the most part. They are about the size of an adult human fist and don't sting. They are made of crocheted wool and filled with stuffing. They can use small amounts of wind magic to defend themselves and the hive. They are weak to extreme temperature changes. These creatures drop honey and wool. They are AC rank monsters, so they are lowest rank. They are cuddly and friendly though, so they make great pets. Observe is now level 7. Skill acquisition notice. Taming. This skill allows the user to communicate with and contract monsters into being the user's allies. Tamed monsters do not take up party slots. When asleep, injured, or simply not in use, the tamed monster is stored in a card that can then be summoned for as long as the user is alive. User does not need to be conscious to keep a monster out after it is summoned. Summon monster can summon itself if its user is in danger of serious injury or death. At higher levels, this skill allows the user to use the tamed monster's abilities. In the event that a tamed monster's HP hits 0, they are turned back into a card until they are healed. Magic and skills can be used on the tamed monster to shorten its recovery time or strengthen them. It's kinda like a pet but better, so remember to care for and feed your monster friends. They have feelings too. Monster cards can be stored in inventory but not when they are out of their card state. MP cost 15 for initial card creation and 5 for every summon after. A new section of the menu has been added. You can now use the shop tab in the home menu to buy different items. But what would you look at that? Think I should try it? Izuku asks. The father and son each read the notice and Masaru shook his head. Not right now. We can all sit down and take a look together when we're done here. All right, he told Izuku. Finish the dungeon. Explore my quirk later. Gotcha. Izuku replied as he and Katsuki approached the bees. Die, you damn bugs. The latter yelled as he used his quirk on 2 bees at a time. The bees would fall to the ground after one attack because wool and fire do not mix. Izuku lights the entire hive on fire with his newly acquired fire breath. As the children busied themselves, Masaru noticed the decently sized bundles of wool and bottles of honey on the ground unharmed by the fire, in place of the bee corpses. They weren't disappearing, so he waited until the boys were done with the rest of the hive to tell them. Boys, look around. I think the bees' item drop is wool and honey. Kinda strange with honey since they were made of wool, but I'm not complaining. Izuku, why don't you check the hive? The queen might have dropped something different. Masaru explained. Izuku took his suggestion and checked the remains of the hive. 350 MP. 60-80 amp. Jackpot. A treasure chest. Let's open it. He exclaimed as he and Katsuki lifted the heavy lid together. Inside they found 10,000 yen and they got excited. They called to Masaru, who was gathering the wool and honey with glee, as a new screen appeared before all of them. Section cleared. Reward, 300 EXP. 11,000 yen. 15 wool bundles. 30 bottles of honey. Observation notice. Woolly bee honey. Adds light resist 2. Adds wind resist 2. Recovers 100 HP. Recovers 100 MP. Wool, material used in crafting. Effect, +1 to item dungeon drops. Observe is now level 8. Dad, Uncle, you gotta see this. He made his way towards them with his arms full of wool and bottles of honey. Izuku immediately took them from him to carry in his inventory. When he did that, the rest of the drops that Masaru couldn't gather disappeared into his inventory. Masaru looked at the chest and screens, but he didn't expect real money to be dropped. Now that he looked around though, he could see shiny things glinting all around the forest floor. Izuku, why don't you store that in your inventory and we can sit down later to figure out what to do with it? I think the workers and drones drop smaller amounts of money too. Masaru suggested. When Izuku put the money in his inventory, all the coins that were on the ground also disappeared into his inventory. Sounds like a plan. For now, can we continue with the dungeon? Izuku asked his uncle. Masaru nodded and the trio continued on the path to another clearing. This time the animal they encountered was pigs. Not boars but woolen pigs. Pink ones. Observation notice. Woolly pig. This monster is like a normal pig but made of wool. They are about the size of a normal pig. They can use enhancement magic to help them and their allies fight. If tamed, they drop truffles every day if fed just as often. The more they like their tamer, the higher quality and quantity the truffles become. When slain, they drop leather as well as truffles. They make a great pet when tamed. I wonder what they'll drop this time. Masaru says to himself. Truffles and leather. At least according to Observe. Izuku replied without a second thought. The trio counted the number of pigs and there were about 30 of them in this large clearing. Izuku wanted one, so he used his taming skill. Taming. Once he activated the skill, one of the pigs began glowing and poofed into a bronze-bordered card with a picture of the animal and a small description. He picked it up and put it in his inventory. It then took them a few minutes to defeat all the pigs. Apparently they dropped truffles, leather and more money, so that's a good thing. Section cleared. Reward, 400 EXP. 9,000 yen. 43 truffles. 43 leather. Obtains C rank monster card. 350 MP. 30-80 amp. We're getting a lot more drops than I thought we would. Masaru said to the boys. At this, Izuku remembered the 2 skills he bought and proceeded to show Masaru the skills list. That's probably because of artisan and economy. They both increase different drops in item dungeons. He explained to Masaru, who nodded in understanding. All right. Now I've got it. Why did it apply to the honey though? Masaru asked. Izuku gave it some thought and replied. Probably because you can use it in cooking and that makes it count as a material. My quirks must see cooking as crafting, so maybe when I finally give crafting a try it'll let me cook using that menu too. Katsuki is just trying to follow along with what they are saying and is figuring it out as they all go along. We should probably keep going. You can both nerd out later. he told the two. They looked at Katsuki and nodded in agreement. Boss battle ahead. They walked into the clearing and a very large sheep with large horns was surrounded by about 40 smaller sheep with small horns. Observation notice. Woolly sheep. This monster is basically just a sheep made of crocheted wool yarn. They can use one spell, but it's a sleep spell, so watch out. As they grow, so do their horns, and that is the best way to tell their strength. If tamed, they drop wool every 2 days, but it is quite a bit. When you brush them daily, the quality of the wool goes up. When slain, they drop both wool and lamb meat. Both are very good for crafting. Oh, taming. Target, large woolly sheep. Izuku said with determination. In a poof of smoke, the largest sheep was turned into a silver-bordered monster card. Because the large sheep was the boss monster, a treasure chest dropped as well. Saving the chest for last, Izuku and Katsuki then got to work defeating the smaller sheep. The smaller sheep didn't take very long to defeat since they were weak to fire. Once they were done, the small party gathered the drops into Izuku's inventory and opened the chest together. Dungeon cleared. Reward, 1,000 EXP. 11,000 yen. 50 lamb meat. 50 wool. Obtained B rank monster card. 350 MP. Well, that was eventful. I think that's all we should do for today. There is still a lot to explore since we discovered new things about Izuku's quirk. Why don't we head home and talk about it? Masaru suggested and received 2 replies of acceptance. Exiting item dungeon. In a flash of light, the trio were back on Dagoba Beach and exhausted as they piled in Masaru's car and headed home for the day. Status screen. Name, Midoriya Izuku. Level EXP, 4003000. Title, The Gamer. HP, 625. MP, 493. Attributes. Sir 30. Vit 25. Dex 22. Will 25. 44. Wis 29. Cha 23. Tai 27. Attribute points, 0. Money 33,000 yen. Skill points 109. Skills. Gamer's Mind Max. This skill gives the user immunity to common status ailments such as charm, anger, fear, sadness. Gamer's Body Max. This skill makes the body of the user that of a video game character and exponentially increases the growth rate of the user. Observe 1220. This skill allows the user to see the stats of anything, though is dependent on level and in the case of sentient being, closeness. At current level, without any acquaintanceship, the following can be seen on any given being. Name, age, title, level, quirk, last uses, crimes committed, attributes. Item Dungeon 210. This skill allows the user to open a dungeon, a place where money, materials, and EXP and be obtained. Each dungeon is dependent on the quality of the item. Note that sentient beings cannot be used with Item Dungeon. MP cost Cure Heal 310. This skill allows the user to heal minor and moderate wounds at the current level of MP cost. Fire Breath 620. This allows the user's lungs and throat to be fireproof, also adding a small ignition organ within the mouth. This allows the user to breathe fire as well as eat it to regain HP. MP cost Artisan 310 lowers the amount of materials needed to craft items as well as raises the quality of said crafted items. This skill also increases material drops within item dungeons by 3x. Economy 310 increases the chances of randomly receiving a discount when shopping based on the CHA attribute. Currently at 23%. Increased money drops within item dungeons. Enchant 410. Depending on what you imagine when using this skill and how much MP you use, the user can add up to plus 50 of any effect they want to any article of clothing, jewelry, or weapon they want. Limit of 5 different effects to any one item. Per plus 1 effect is dependent on what attribute is changed. MP cost 12 per plus. Taming 250. This skill allows the user to befriend a creature and keep them as an ally. Tamed monsters do not take up party slots. When asleep, injured, or simply not in use, the tamed monster is stored in a card that can then be summoned for as long as the user is alive. User does not need to be conscious to keep a monster out after it is summoned. Summon monster can summon itself if its user is in danger of serious injury or death. At higher levels, this skill allows the user to use the tamed monster's abilities. In the event that a tamed monster's HP hits 0, they are turned back into a card until they are healed. Magic and skills can be used on the tamed monster to shorten its recovery time. It's kinda like a pet but better, so remember to care for and feed your monster friends. They have feelings too. Monster cards can be stored in inventory but not when they are out of their card state. MP cost 15 for initial card creation and 5 for every summon after. Content warning for the mention of RPE, child abuse and neglect plus many more crimes. Level up notice. You are now level 5. You have reached your first milestone. From now on, every time you hit the 5th level increment you gain plus 5 points to all attributes as well as skill points the same amount as your level. For example, when you reach level 10 you gain plus 5 to all attributes and 10 skill points. Level 15 you get another plus 5 to your attributes and 15 skill points. Taming is now level 2. Fire Breathe is now level 4. Fire Breathe is now level 5. Fire Breathe is now level 6. Economy is now level 2. Economy is now level 3. Artisan is now level 2. Artisan is now level 3. Item Dungeon is now level 2. As Masaru drove back to the house, he kept hearing Izuku's notifications go off and smiled at the surprise the boy would wake up to. There must have been a bit of a lag in the dungeon for the notifications. He mumbled to himself as he entered the neighborhood. Minutes later the trio was back at the Bakugus and heading in the house. Welcome home. How was your adventure? Inko said as they entered the home. The trio looked at each other and Izuku said, We'll tell you about it, but let's sit down for that. It's been a long few hours. The four of them headed for the living room as Mitsuki brought out drinks and snacks. When the last person sat down, Izuku began. Where do I start? He paused for a minute and thought. Well, I guess I'll go in order. I learned how to enchant things, so I enchanted the gear you gave us. Then we went into the item dungeon for the first time and I got a new skill. It's called Taming and it allows me to befriend and keep monsters. I even have a couple of them. See? Izuku said as he pulled the 2 cards from his inventory. He handed them to his mother for her to look at. She looked at them and smiled. Wow, honey. That's pretty cool. Tell me more. She said as she handed her son back the cards. He had the biggest smile on his face and proceeded to tell her about the adventure the 3 of them had. He told her about the item drops, the cute monsters they saw, the new skills he obtained, the levels he gained on the skills he already had, the perks he gets when he hits a milestone level, and even the small discovery of the excess MP HP bars. Before he was done with his story, Izuku yawned. I think it's time for lunch and then a nap. We can have Masaru tell us the rest. Inko said as she watched her son be barely able to stay awake. Mitsuki and Masaru watched as Katsuki was getting sleepy too. They really exhausted themselves in that dungeon. It must be just now hitting them. Mitsuki said. Everyone went over to the kitchen where the food was and ate, then the 2 boys exhaustedly hobbled off to Katsuki's room to nap. In the meantime, Masaru finished telling the 2 mothers of the trio's adventures, making sure not to exclude any detail. The 3 parents discussed what to do with the dungeon rewards and ultimately agreed to let the children decide amongst themselves what to do after they've woken up from their nap. After a couple hours of the adults sitting in the living room and chatting, the young duo were up and rested from their power nap. Inko called over Izuku as the 2 boys came back downstairs. Sweetie, you and Katsuki collected a lot of money today. Why don't you 2 talk about what to do with it? Okay, she suggested and the 2 boys' faces lit up. Okay, but Kakin and I already kinda talked and decided what to do with it. We just need you guys' help with actually writing it out. With that information, Masaru and Inko sat down with the boys and began the 3-hours-long process of teaching the 2 10-year-olds budgeting. Mitsuki had said she wasn't gonna be much help in the math department and opted out of helping. The kids soaked up the information though and, with the help of the 2 adults, finished with the list spreadsheet. Now the 2 each had a plan for their earnings as well as decided how to split the money. 50-50 down the middle unless the amount couldn't be split perfectly even, then Izuku got the slightly larger half considering it came from his own quirk. They each had a plan for how they wanted to spend the money they earned and decided to save the rest for a rainy day. +5 to INT for calculating for an extended length of time. +4 to WIS for budgeting your money. The day had since turned to evening and the kids had school tomorrow, so the Midoriyas decided to head home for the night. Once home, they settled into their evening routines and headed to bed a few hours later. The next morning, breakfast was eaten. The two got ready for the day and each headed off to their destinations. Once Izuku arrived at school, he headed to the classroom where everyone ignored him as usual and he just discreetly watched his classmates as they walked in the classroom. By doing this, his observe skill slowly increased to 12 once the last of the students walked in. He also saw once his skill hit level 10, that a few of his classmates were either already petty criminals or on their way to something more serious. Izuku decided to talk to his mom after school about what to do about it, if anything at all. Observe has leveled up to 9. Observe has leveled up to 10 and now shows criminal history not based on police record and attributes. Observe has leveled up to 11. Observe has leveled up to 12. Class started about 20 minutes later and almost immediately the teacher announced without Izuku's permission that he got his quirk over the weekend. Immediately Izuku was swarmed with invasive questions and fake smiles. The teacher was oblivious and only made the situation worse by asking Izuku to explain his quirk. Izuku had to put his foot down as he stood up and said politely but confidently his answer. +3 to will for not giving into peer pressure. I don't want to share that information with people who bullied me, and I'd appreciate it if you didn't share my personal information without my permission again. Please and thank you. The teacher looked annoyed but didn't push the issue. Izuku then sat back down and school began and ended in a flash. By 4:30 p.m. Izuku was on his usual route home when he spotted pro-hero Endeavor patrolling the city. At that moment Observe kicked in and Izuku was horrified by what he saw. Observe notice. Name, Todoroki NG. Title, Pro-Hero Endeavor. Level, 47. Quirk, Hellflame. Last uses. Hero work, training, abuse, training. Attributes, so 60. Vit 75. Dex 52. Will 50. 40. Wis 38. Cha 20. BI 45. Crimes. Murder greater than 160 people, RP x 3, wife. Abuse x 5 people, wife, eldest son, middle son, daughter, youngest son. Neglect x 5 people, wife, eldest son, middle son, daughter, youngest son. Greater than 200 instances, arson greater than 120 instances, blackmail greater than 300 instances. What the hell? This must be what that supervisor at the Quirk registry office meant. I should definitely report this now instead of later. Oh, at those poor people. How does something like this happen? I'll shoot Mom a text so she doesn't worry. Izuku starts heading another way towards the nearest commission building after searching for an address on the internet. 20 minutes later, he is walking through the door towards the reception desk. Excuse me, ma'am. Who would I talk to about reporting a hero's crimes? Izuku said with a bit of worry in his. She looked shocked but gave him a paper with the information he needed on it. Coincidentally, a certain detective was just finishing some business there and overheard the question. Excuse me. I'm sorry, but I overheard your question and couldn't help but ask if you may need help finding your destination? I'm Detective Tsukachi Naomasa with Mustafu PD. The detective introduced himself and Izuku's nervousness faded slightly. He nodded and the two walked towards the elevator. Soon they were at the complaints department and after explaining again they were in a meeting with a representative. New observe notice. Data of Tsukachi Naomasa obtained. See the recently added archive section of the menu for access to previous files. Hello you two. My name is Kasai Tatsuru. What business do you have with us today? The representative asks. Well, Kasai-san, first I have to explain something so everyone has the full picture and I ask that both of you let me finish before passing judgment. Izuku states. The two men nod in acceptance before Izuku continues. Thank you for your patience. To start with, I'm Izuku Midoriya and I got my quirk just 2 days ago. We always knew I had one because I was shown to be metagene positive, but that didn't seem to matter much. Anyway, when I did get it, my mom made 2 appointments. The Quirk doctor and the registry office. When we went to register my Quirk branch head, Ida-san was called in. When I explained what I knew my Quirk did, he asked both my mother and I to please report any heroes I saw that my Quirk told me were secretly criminals. This also created a permanent quest to report corrupt heroes. He asked us to do this because a part of my Quirk is a passive skill called Observe. It's a skill that shows and stores information on anything I've ever seen. This information shows as video game stats, but since that skill leveled up to a certain point just today, I can now see the crimes someone has committed over their lifetime as well as the number of times it has happened. Not having realized, Izuku broke off into mumble mode to the point that the representative interjected. "Oh, good." We only understood part of that, the rest was a bit too jumbled. "I see." Izuku pauses. "May I have permission to use my Quirk to show you what it showed me? I can feel it'll make this process a whole lot easier." Izuku finished as the adults looked at each other with Tsukachi giving the other a nod of approval. The other man then gives Izuku a nod. Izuku then switches the POV setting and shows them the data on Endeavor. It's not pretty and it's a lot. It's also surprising considering who it is and the influence he holds. Izuku says as he shows the screen to the two men. Observe notice. Name, Todoroki Enji. Title, Pro Hero Endeavor. Level, 47. Quirk, Hellflame. Last uses. Hero work, training, abuse, training. Attributes, so 60. Vit 75. Dex 52. Will 50. 40. Wis 38. Cha 20. DI 45. Crimes. Murder greater than 160 people, RP x 3, wife. Abuse x 5 people, wife, eldest son, middle son, daughter, youngest son. Neglect x 5 people, wife, eldest son, middle son, daughter, youngest son. Greater than 200 instances, arson greater than 120 instances, blackmail greater than 300 instances. My Quirk doesn't lie. I'm sorry. Izuku said quietly as the two adults looked at the screen in shock. Once they were done reading, they looked at each other again and sighed because Tsukachi's Quirk already confirmed his statements to be true. What happens now? I did as I was asked. Are you going to turn in your report? I was told the higher-ups would be made aware of me and the task I was given. Kasai-san sighed and turned to Izuku. Yeah. I am. It's my job after all to report things of this nature. I'm sorry you were exposed to this kind of thing at your age though. Thank you for being brave and bringing this to our attention. He smiled. He won't get away with what he's done. The Hero Commission takes these kinds of things very seriously. He said as he took pictures of the data and typed up his report. Kasai-san sent off the email to the right people before turning back to Izuku and saying, "It's done. The investigation should start as soon as the right people are made aware and sign off on it. Try not to let this stress you out, Midoriya-kun. I'm sure the police and the commission will catch him." At this moment, Izuku got a new Quirk notification. Quest notice. Status. Permanent. Corrupt heroes. Passively obtain information on corrupt heroes and report it to the nearest commission branch. Reward. 100 EXP based on rank of hero, 1 skill point, if hero is in top 100, dependent on rank. Failure. Corrupt heroes continue to run free and damage society even further. Quest rewards dispensing. Plus 9,900 EXP. Plus 99 skill points. Level up, level up, level up. Congratulations! You have reached level 10. A milestone level. Plus 5 to all attributes. Plus 10 skill points. Well then, that happened. Izuku muttered in shock as he stared at his screen. Since the viewing settings were still switched, Tsukachi-san and Kasai-san both heard and saw the reward notice. They were surprised to say the least. Well, that sounds like a good thing. What happened? Tsukachi asked. Izuku beamed at him and said, I leveled up to that quest I told you about earlier. Dispense the reward since the quest itself is to just report the corrupt hero in question instead of catching and defeating them. Once Kasai-san sent the email, I got the notification for my rewards. I got 9,900 EXP and 99 skill points because of how highly ranked Endeavor is. Plus when I became level 10, I received the usual bonus for a milestone level. See? He showed the two adults and they both congratulated him with a smile. I should be getting home soon if that's all. I sent my mom a text earlier saying I would be late and where I was, but I don't want to worry her too much. You know, Izuku told the two men. They nodded and sent him on his way with Tsukachi escorting him home since he was still a child after all. After a long walk home, Izuku, and Tsukachi said their goodbyes at the door. Izuku exhaustedly ate a bit of food and readied himself for bed before collapsing onto his pillow, fast asleep. Status screen. Name, Midoriya Izuku. Level 50. EXP, 4003000. Title, The Gamer. HP, 625. MP, 493. Attributes. Sir 30. Vit 25. Dex 22. Will 25. 44. Wis 29. Cha 23. Tai 27. Attribute points, 0. Money 33,000 yen. Skill points 109. Skills. Gamer's Mind Max. This skill gives the user immunity to common status ailments such as charm, anger, fear, sadness. Gamers. Body Max. This skill makes the body of the user that of a video game character and exponentially increases the growth rate of the user. Observe 1220. This skill allows the user to see the stats of anything though is dependent on level and in the case of sentient being, closeness. At current level, without any acquaintanceship, the following can be seen on any given being. Name, age, title, level, quirk, last uses, crimes committed, attributes. Item Dungeon 210. This skill allows the user to open a dungeon, a place where money, materials, and EXP and be obtained. Each dungeon is dependent on the quality of the item. Note that sentient beings cannot be used with Item Dungeon. MP Cost Cure Heal 310. This skill allows the user to heal minor and moderate wounds at the current level of MP Cost Fire Breath 620. This allows the user's lungs and throat to be fireproof, also adding a small ignition organ within the mouth. This allows the user to breathe fire as well as eat it to regain HP. MP Cost Artisan 310 lowers the amount of materials needed to craft items as well as raises the quality of said crafted items. This skill also increases material drops within item dungeons by 3x. Economy 310 increases the chances of randomly receiving a discount when shopping based on the CHA attribute. Currently at 23%. Increased money drops within item dungeons. Enchant 410. Depending on what you imagine when using this skill and how much MP you use, the user can add up to plus 50 of any effect they want to any article of clothing, jewelry, or weapon they want. Limit of 5 different effects to any one item. Per plus 1 effect is dependent on what attribute is changed. MP cost 12 per plus, taming 250. This skill allows the user to befriend a creature and keep them as an ally. Tamed monsters do not take up party slots. When asleep, injured, or simply not in use, the tamed monster is stored in a card that can then be summoned for as long as the user is alive. User does not need to be conscious to keep a monster out after it is summoned. Summon monster can summon itself if its user is in danger of serious injury or death. At higher levels, this skill allows the user to use the tamed monster's abilities. In the event that a tamed monster's HP hits 0, they are turned back into a card until they are healed. Magic and skills can be used on the tamed monster to shorten its recovery time. It's kinda like a pet but better, so remember to care for and feed your monster friends. They have feelings too. Monster cards can be stored in inventory but not when they are out of their card state. MP cost 15 for initial card creation and 5 for every summon after. Izuku's POV. Tuesday, July 18th, 2XXX. 7 a.m. Brian. Izuku groaned into his pillow as his alarm went off and rolled over. Inko then knocked on the door solidly to jostle him the rest of the way awake. I'm up. He drawled with sleep still in his voice. Soon he was going about his morning routine and ready for school. He had some time left before he had to leave, so he decided to look at the skill grimoire. 5 of them caught his eyes right off the bat. Telekinesis, which he didn't pick before, its sister skill, medium, HP recovery, MP recovery, and teleport. So he clicked on each of them for more details. Skill Grimoire. Telekinesis, 10 SP. Allows the user to use a base-level telekinesis that grows with practice. Allows for moving objects up to 10 kilograms 22 pounds at level MP cost 10, active skill. Teleport, 15 SP. Allows the user to teleport to any place on the map. MP cost 10, active skill. Medium, 15 SP. Allows the user to summon and communicate with the dead. MP cost 10, active skill. HP recovery, 10 SP. Recovers the user's HP over time. At level 1, full recovery from 0 to max takes 3 hours. Passive skill. MP recovery, 10 SP. Recovers the user's MP over time. At level 1, full recovery from 0 to max takes 3 hours. Passive skill. 60 skill points. 49 skill points remaining. Obtain skill book for telekinesis. Obtain skill book for teleport. Obtained skill book for medium. Obtained passive skill, HP recovery. Obtained passive skill, MP recovery. Izuku ended up buying them all and putting the skill books in his inventory for safekeeping until school was over. With that he left the house after breakfast to go to school. As usual, school passed by drearily but, with the added bonus of more attribute points going to INT, Will, and AGI as a part of his normal study habits. +6 to Will. +7 to AGI. +10 to INT. While walking back home with Katsuki, Izuku was excitedly telling him about the new skills he got this morning. Soon they were going their separate ways towards their homes. Once Izuku got home, he greeted his mom before grabbing a snack and heading to his room to dive into the 2 skill books. He started on the telekinesis book first, and it took him about an hour to read it cover to cover. Obtained telekinesis. By genetic inheritance and manually reading the skill book, this skill has 2 levels added to it. Telekinesis leveled up to telekinesis leveled up to the teleport book took about 20 minutes less than the last one. Obtained teleport. By manually reading the skill book, the skill has 1 level added to it. Teleport leveled up to medium took the longest to read at a total of 2 hours. Obtained medium. By manually reading the book and genetic inheritance, this skill has 2 levels added to it. Medium leveled up to 2. Medium leveled up to 3. Where did the genetic inheritance come from? He mumbled to himself and thought a moment. Oh, right. Oba-san on mom's side had that quirk. He remembered and paled as he also remembered to do his homework. He groaned and got to work. Tsukachi's POV. Tuesday, July 18th, 2XXX. In the early morning of 4 a.m., Tsukachi was woken up by a phone call. He checked his phone with a groan and saw the name of his chief on the screen. Kenji Tsuragami. Incoming call. With a sigh he answers the call. Hello, sir. Good morning. What can I do for you? Tsukachi says with a yawn. Detective. I need you at the Mustafu Commission branch, ASAP. I'm sure you remember the report you helped a young child file yesterday. Well, that is the reason for the meeting. We were called in to discuss the matter more in depth because of the severity of the accusations and who they were aimed at. Confirmation is needed. Be there as soon as you can. Conference room 1. The chief says. I'll be there, sir. See you soon. Tsukachi says before hanging up and getting ready for a long day. Fully dressed and ready with a strong cup of coffee, he sets off toward his destination. By the time he's arrived, his cup is empty and in need of a refill, so he goes to the designated conference room and starts to refill his coffee. Just as he is putting the pot back, he sees Nedu in one of the chairs sipping his tea silently along with Grand Torino and Chief Tsuragami. So how many people are going to participate in this meeting and who else are we waiting for besides the president? Tsukachi asked the chief as he sat down. Tsuragami turned to him and said, aside from the president, board member Akaguro is all we are waiting for. About 5 minutes of silence went by before the president and Akaguro showed up. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Shall we get this meeting started? For those that don't know me, I am Nakai Miyoko, president of the Hero Commission. The woman greeted with an air of elegance and strength. The introductions go on around the table. Sorahiko Torino. Hero name, Grand Torino. Nedu. Hero name, Netsu. Principal of UA and board member of the Hero Commission. Tsuragami Kenji, Chief of Police. Tsukachi Naomasa, Mustafu PD Detective. Kaizome Akaguro, board member of the Hero Commission. Former hero name, Stendhal. Now that that's out of the way, shall we begin? Nakai asked and everyone agreed. President Nakai starts with, well, I've read the report that you all have in the folders in front of you, and while I don't want to believe it, the evidence attached is pretty convincing. Tsukachi-san, you helped this child file this, right? Was he being truthful? Tsukachi cleared his throat and spoke. As a few of you know, my quirk is lie detector. For those that don't, it basically tells me whether someone is lying or being truthful. Even if they believe something to be true themselves when it isn't true, as long as it's actually a lie, my quirk will tell me as such. He was being truthful the entire time. I didn't get even half of a lie. When he showed us the data, he apologized and said his quirk doesn't lie. My quirk flagged that as true, so as unfortunate as it is, the report is true. The child also told us that he was told to report things exactly like that by one Ida Taramesa of the Mustafu branch quirk registry. He flipped through the folder to find what he needed. Please see the file of the child in question's quirk to follow along. He continued, Midoriya-kun also explained to us in the meeting that when Ida-san requested that of him, his quirk took that request and made it into a permanent quest. The file does explain what that is for those that don't know. As part of that quest, he did what was asked of him. Tsukachi finished. So we can definitely trust this source. The nature of both of your quirks leaves no room for lies and falsities. That's good to know. Nakai-san states. Now, can any of these actions be morally justified? Such as the murders and arson? She asked. Nedu spoke up next, trying to fight an uphill battle as the devil's advocate. As a pro-hero, his job is definitely dangerous and casualties are an unfortunate reality of such a long career. He argued, though he already knew the outcome. A pro-hero, especially one as seasoned as he is, should have more control than he has shown. Yes, casualties happen from time to time, but the frequency of his are beyond negligent. Akaguro shouted, appalled. Not only that, but how would you explain the abuse and RP? There is no reasonable excuse. He continued. Nedu once again tried and failed to come up with any reasonable answer, so he only could defend with. Upbringing could be a significant factor. We always suspected his father was abusive when he was a pro, but we could never prove it. Akaguro scowled. That's even more of a reason he shouldn't have done those things. Why would he choose to follow in his father's footsteps instead of learning from his father's mistakes? From a different perspective, that makes it even worse that he followed suit. He countered. All right, enough, that question is answered and settled. Next topic would be, is it possible to gather evidence? Nakai-san interjected and directed the conversation forward. Yes, but any evidence in some of those crimes may be reduced due to age. These are crimes that could have possibly occurred somewhere between yesterday and from before Endeavor even was a pro-hero. Unless we have an accurate time frame, for all we know we could only be investigating cold cases. Tsukachi stated. Blackmail would be difficult to obtain evidence for because of hearsay. There may be no physical traces of such a crime. Murder, while it may leave evidence of a body, may not be possible to link without connecting evidence or witnesses. Nedu countered. But would any evidence that the investigation gathers be enough to prove any of the claimed crimes? She asked. Most of the general crimes would not be proven by normal investigative means. Unless you have a physic or a medium, we aren't going to find much. Tsuragami said. I don't even care. Investigate what you can. You only said most. That means there are some of them that can be properly investigated. Take that and run with it. I don't care if we have to dig through his garbage in order to find evidence. If there is even a chance we find something, we'll take it. Unbeknownst to them, a certain scarred runaway will solve that problem. Okay, and when should he be apprehended? As it stands now, we only have two options and one appeals more than the other. We can either wait until after the investigation and minimize the risk of retaliation, or we can apprehend him beforehand and have a higher risk of him getting away, hurting more people in retaliation. Nakai stated clearly. It was at this moment that a look around the room told everyone what they needed to know. A round of nods was all that could be seen. No words were needed. Yes, they were definitely waiting until the investigation was done before they captured this wolf in sheep's clothing. Okay then. I believe we're all in agreement then. The investigation will start immediately. Strap in everyone. This is going to be a long and tedious process. President Nakai stated, and immediately everyone within the meeting room stood and got to work. Status screen. Name, Midoriya Izuku. Level 5. EXP, 4003000. Title, The Gamer. HP, 625. MP, 493. Attributes. Sir 30. Vit 25. Dex 22. Will 31. Int 54. Wis 29. Cha 23. Jai 34. Attribute points, 0. Money 33,000 yen. Skill points 64. Skills. Gamer's Mind Max. This skill gives the user immunity to common status ailments such as charm, anger, fear, sadness. Gamer's Body Max. This skill makes the body of the user that of a video game character and exponentially increases the growth rate of the user. Observe 1220. This skill allows the user to see the stats of anything, though is dependent on level and in the case of sentient being, closeness. At current level, without any acquaintanceship, the following can be seen on any given being. Name, age, title, level, quirk, last uses, crimes committed, attributes. Item Dungeon 210. This skill allows the user to open a dungeon, a place where money, materials, and EXP and be obtained. Each dungeon is dependent on the quality of the item. Note that sentient beings cannot be used with Item Dungeon. MP Cost Cure Heal 310. This skill allows the user to heal minor and moderate wounds at the current level of MP Cost Fire Breath 620. This allows the user's lungs and throat to be fireproof, also adding a small ignition organ within the mouth. This allows the user to breathe fire as well as eat it to regain HP. MP Cost Artisan 310 lowers the amount of materials needed to craft items as well as raises the quality of said crafted items. This skill also increases material drops within item dungeons by 3x. Economy 310 increases the chances of randomly receiving a discount when shopping based on the CHA attribute. Currently at 23%. Increased money drops within item dungeons. Enchant 410. Depending on what you imagine when using this skill and how much MP you use, the user can add up to plus 50 of any effect they want to any article of clothing, jewelry, or weapon they want. Limit of 5 different effects to any one item. Per plus 1 effect is dependent on what attribute is changed. MP cost 12 per plus. Taming 250. This skill allows the user to befriend a creature and keep them as an ally. Tamed monsters do not take up party slots. When asleep, injured, or simply not in use, the tamed monster is stored in a card that can then be summoned for as long as the user is alive. User does not need to be conscious to keep a monster out after it is summoned. Summon monster can summon itself if its user is in danger of serious injury or death. At higher levels, this skill allows the user to use the tamed monster's abilities. In the event that a tamed monster's HP hits 0, they are turned back into a card until they are healed. Magic and skills can be used on the tamed monster to shorten its recovery time. It's kinda like a pet but better, so remember to care for and feed your monster friends. They have feelings too. Monster cards can be stored in inventory but not when they are out of their card state. MP cost 15 for initial card creation and 5 for every summon after. Telekinesis 310 allows the user to use a base level telekinesis that grows with practice. Allows for moving objects up to 30 kilograms 66 pounds at level. MP cost 10. Active skill. Teleport 210 allows the user to teleport to any place on the map. MP cost 10. Active skill. HP recovery 110 recovers the user's HP over time. At level 1, full recovery from 0 to max takes 3 hours. Passive skill. MP recovery 110 recovers the user's MP over time. At level 1, full recovery from 0 to max takes 3 hours. Passive skill. Medium 315 allows the user to summon and or communicate with the dead. MP cost 10 active skill. The morning after that meeting was held, Izuku's routine remained mostly unchanged. For the most part, Izuku continues to go through normal days and spends some of the time in his neighborhood with his mom for a couple hours each evening, looking for quests. He finds many smaller repeatable quests that as he does more and more, the EXP and miscellaneous rewards start to pile up over the course of the next couple months. During this time, they also run into the detective more as well, and over the course of those couple months the parent-child duo have pseudo-adopted Tsukachi into their small family. In the 2 months Tsukachi has known the mother and son, he has become more acquainted and fond of the small family. He is more and more sure of his decision to talk to Inko about Izuku's training. The trio have gotten to be quite close with each other as of late. Izuku has taken to calling Tsukachi Uncle Masa. The first time it happened was when Katsuki was overdoing quests and homework with Izuku. Poor Tsukachi's heart almost couldn't take it that day. One day after work, he sits down with Inko while Izuku is out at Katsuki's and broaches the subject with her. "Hey Inko, you know how Izuku is slowly but surely gaining levels and EXP from his smaller quests from the neighborhood?" He pauses as she nods in acknowledgement and he continues. "Well, I wanted to introduce the two of you to a friend of mine that can help in that training. You know, speed up the progress with, based on Izuku's description of the prerequisites for his quirk to consider quests. I've noticed that most of the better quests he has been given are the ones that come from figures of authority or at least who he deems to be authority. The rewards for it are also better depending on how high a regard he holds them in, is what I've noticed as well, so I want to introduce the both of you to Nedu. I firmly believe he could help Izuku be the best version of himself he could possibly be. I also think it would be a good opportunity for him to learn, especially since he loves learning new things about his and everyone else's quirks so much." He finished. Inko is silent for a moment as she thinks it over, then she exhales deeply. "Neo Mesa, that is very kind of you. Please make the arrangements then. I know Izuku will agree and be so happy with this." She pauses with a small sigh and continues. "You know, I've always known Izuku would be something great. Maybe it's a mother's bias, but my boy has always been so kind and smart, but I never knew how to support him properly. If agreeing to let him meet someone who can help him towards his goal when I can't is what I need to do, then I'll do it. I get the feeling my Izuku will change the world with his kindness and intelligence," she says with a soft, joyful smile. Tsukachi returns that smile with his own fond one. "I'll call him and set it up then. Thank you for taking me up on this." "I agree. I think Izuku will like the experience," he responds. Later that day, after Tsukachi leaves the Midoriya house, he calls Nedu and tells him the news. "I don't know about you, but I'm quite looking forward to this meeting. Wouldn't you agree?" The voice of Nedu sounds through the line. "I'm happy Izuku will be able to grow closer to his goal, but I am not looking forward to you turning him into a fellow vent gremlin like yourself. I would put money on the fact that once he meets you he'll slowly but surely turn." Tsukachi smirks into the phone. Nedu can hear it and gives a smirk of his own. "Calling me out, huh? Well, I can't say you're wrong on that front. Though you have to admit, one can't be a genius without a few odd habits and traits," he says. "From what I can tell, that is very true." "Touché," Tsukachi responds. "Anyway, 2 weeks from now, correct?" Nedu asks. Tsukachi confirms and they both hang up with a goodbye to each other. Near the end of the 2 weeks, Izuku has accumulated a fair bit of EXP and currently has various other rewards sitting in his inventory. Katsuki has also gained EXP and saved most of the split money from drops via dungeon crawling. Both boys have accumulated their own little nest eggs after they learned about budgeting and money management from their parents. The morning of the Midoriya's meeting with Nedu, Izuku can be found in his room fiddling with his inventory and skill grimoire. Izuku obtained 3 skill books from his neighborhood quests as they've taken to calling them. He received these skill books: Martial Arts I, Martial Arts II, both from helping an old martial arts instructor around his dojo. Green the Mud, from helping the neighborhood hobby gardener with his plants. Along with the skill books, Izuku also obtained many drops from the dungeon he and Katsuki went into the weekend before. Looking at his inventory, we can see this. Inventory. Carrot items. Starter gear gift set. Woolly Pig Monster Card Rank C. Large Woolly Sheep Monster Card Rank B. Martial Arts I Skill Book. Martial Arts 2 Skill Book. Green Thumb I Skill Book. HP Potion X10. MP Potion X10. V Equipment. Carrot Materials. Wool X65. Iron Ingots X5. Honey X30. Truffles X43. Leather X48. Lamb Meat X62. Ginger X50. Ginseng X64. Spirulina X47. Peppermint X62. As we can see, Izuku got quite a few materials to experiment with and skill books to read as a way to fill the time before he and his mom head to UA for their meeting with Nedu and Tsukachi. During the 2-week PRD between setting up the meeting and the day of the event, Izuku discovered the joys of his crafting tab. After the plant dungeon he and Katsuki went through, Izuku got an alert that he now had the materials to make HP and MP potions. After which he spent a bit of time creating 10 of each potion to have on hand. What we saw in his inventory is what was left after the creation of 20 potions. In an attempt to calm his frazzled nerves because he's going to be at UA today, he takes the time to read the skill books he received in his recent adventures. Before that though, he sat down on his bed and opened that starter gear gift set he received but forgot about. In it he got these things: combat boots enchanted with +5 AGI. Gloves enchanted with +5 Dix. Sturdy jeans enchanted with +5 VIT. T-shirt enchanted with +5 VIT. Storage ring acts as a sort of quick bar where it lets the user summon one of 5 objects that can be stored within it without pulling up the user's inventory. Iron bat enchanted with +5 STR. Once he was done examining the new gear, he finally got to work going through the skill books he received. It took him about 20 minutes each to read the martial arts books, then another 30 minutes to read the Green Thumb book. A grand total of 1 hour and 10 minutes of reading later, Izuku received the notices for each book. Martial Arts I has been read. Please choose 2 styles to learn from the options below. Capoeira. Krav Maga. Taekwondo. Izuku is momentarily shocked but picks 2 and moves on to his other notifications. Capoeira I has been learned. Muay Thai I has been learned. After making his choices, a second notice appears. Due to reading Martial Arts 2, the following skills have ranked up. Capoeira 2 has been learned. Muay Thai 2 has been learned. Green Thumb I has been obtained. Izuku goes to his Skills tab and reads through his new skills. Capoeira 2, Max, allows the user to know and use intermediate level capoeira. Muay Thai 2, Max, allows the user to know and use intermediate level Muay Thai. Green Thumb 1.5 allows the user to obtain X2 crops per harvest. This skill also allows for a passive boost of speed for plant growth. Satisfied with his progress, he closes everything and starts getting prepared for the meeting in 45 minutes. 15 minutes later, the mother and son leave towards the train station and ride 10 minutes to the station closest to UA where Tsukachi is waiting for them. After greeting one another, the trio walk another 10 minutes to UA's main campus where they enter using visitor passes that they were sent in the mail beforehand. Tsukachi leads the way through the school past many full classrooms of teenagers of various years. About a 10-minute walk later, the trio is on the top floor, in front of Nedu's office. Just as Tsukachi raises a hand to knock, they hear a slightly high-pitched voice sound through the door. "Come in. It's open." With that, Inko opens the door and standing on his desk, Nedu does his spiel. "Am I a mouse or a dog or a bear? Who knows, but I am the principal." But you're not. You're a natural chimera, aren't you? That's what Observe says. Izuku says with confusion on his face. Nedu looks startled for a moment, then starts laughing. Tsukachi has a look of exasperation on his face beside Inko, who wears a slightly concerned but more confused expression. Once Nedu is done laughing like a maniac, he greets them. "Oh wow. I haven't ever had anyone guess right before. This is fantastic. A pleasure to meet you both. As you know, I am Nedu, the principal of UA High School. I look forward to our discussion, but first, tea anyone?" He says with a largely joyous but equally inhuman smile as he pours himself tea. Inko accepts the tea if only to calm her nerves, and Izuku has some as well. Tsukachi politely declines as he has water with him. Now, shall we begin? Nedu leads. Please. Inko answers. Yes. Izuku replies excitedly as he clutches the binder he kept in his storage ring until now. Excellent. I see you have something with you. I assume it's something for me to look over? Nedu asks. Izuku nods and hops out of his seat to hand Nedu the binder. The chimera happily takes the binder and starts carefully flipping through it. Everyone sits in a tense silence as he takes an hour to read through all 250 pages of this 2.5-inch thick binder. At the end of the hour, Nedu sets down the binder and pours more tea into his long-since empty cup as the trio of tense humans watch in anticipation. It seems to me from the information here that your quirk acts as more of a facilitator and archive than anything else. While it does give you new abilities, its core seems to be the potential inside you that fuels the materialization of your capabilities. Knowing that, it's rather impressive. Nedu finally fills the silence. Izuku beams and Tsukachi looks visibly shocked. Inko can barely hold back a waterfall of proud tears. Mrs. Midoriya. Young Izuku. I'd like to offer Izuku an opportunity. A place in this school as my personal student. What do you both think? Nedu says calmly. Mother and child look at each other and nod. Izuku stands and takes a deep breath. I'll be blunt. This is a wonderful opportunity and I appreciate it. I also know that while my mother does her best at the moment, she wouldn't be able to support my dreams in the ways a hero can. I would also have to be a prideful fool to not accept, so, without hesitation, I accept your offer. He says with as serious a look on his face as a 10-year-old can muster. Inko has proud tears trickling down her cheeks as she still tries to keep it together, and Tsukachi has a fond smile on his face as he watches the scene before him. Nedu has a small smile on his face. Then shall we discuss further what this mentorship would entail? He says with that smile still on his face. Why don't we start with what you had planned and see if that remains the same, or we can discuss changing some things if necessary. Izuku replies with a glimmer in his eye. Nedu recognizes that glimmer, as did Tsukachi from being around Nedu so often. It was that look of, this is all according to how I predicted. And it caused Nedu to chuckle at the fact such an expression came from a 10-year-old, while Tsukachi is slightly mortified at the thought of the sweet kid he knew being like Nedu in any way. Inko gives a sigh in the background and comments. Oh dear. Izuku, try not to startle them. What have I told you about using that little trick your father taught you? It can scare most people. Try to be careful who you use it on. Some people might not take it well. She says in a motherly tone that seems to scold a bit. Tsukachi looks like he has made a great but terrible mistake, and Nedu is just cackling. When he calms down, he says this. Well, this is a wonderful surprise. What was that, detective? About not corrupting him? I think that's already been done before we even met him. As if to tease the detective, Inko gives a ladylike giggle at their reactions. I think the arrangement will do quite nicely for Izuku. Don't you think so, Principal Nedu? What did you have in mind? She says with a curious smile. Izuku nods beside her in anticipation. I was planning on giving him a general placement test to see where he is in terms of regular school subjects, and then once I see where he is, branch out into more advanced subjects like psychology or engineering. I saw he has taken an interest in the crafting aspect of his quirk from reading the fairly large section pertaining to it in the binder he presented me. Does this sound agreeable thus far? Nedu lays out. Inko and Izuku are nodding in agreement, so Nedu continues. I was also thinking of having Izuku work with Eraserhead for any CQC training as a way for him to further his knowledge on the martial arts he knows, as well as learn any other forms of fighting he takes interest in. Eraserhead's knowledge on most forms of close-quarters combat makes him far more qualified to teach fighting than I am. It should be his off-PRD now. Shall we have him come in? Nedu concludes. The mother-son duo nod in agreement, and Nedu pages for him immediately. Minutes later, a knock comes from the door and Nedu calls them in. The door opens to reveal a dark-haired, scruffy-looking man that looks like he doesn't know what sleep is. Izuku's eyes glimmer and he vibrates in excitement. It's Eraserhead. See him. It's really him. Izuku bursts. Nedu chuckles. Of course you know who he is, he says. The new person in the room looks thoroughly confused and shocked. Sir, is there something you needed me for? Eraserhead asks. Nedu nods and gestures to the mother and son. These two are the Midoriya family. Inko and her son have agreed to allow Izuku here to become my personal student. Nedu says as he introduces the mother-son duo. Aizawa's eyes widen in shock for a moment before his face returns to its usual expression. Nedu continues. He has learned to the intermediate level of 2 forms of martial arts but needs an experienced fighter to teach him further and expand on his knowledge. I am not qualified to properly teach fighting to anyone, so I would like you to do it. You do have a choice, but I suggest getting to know him and his abilities before making a decision. Does that sound fair? He finishes. Aizawa has a contemplative look on his face as he considers his options. He finally decides and motions for the 4 to follow him. Minutes later they arrive at a spacious gym equipped with padded flooring in one area. Aizawa turns to them and speaks. I've decided to judge for myself the potential of this child. The 2 of us will spar and that will determine whether I decide to train him. He says clearly. Izuku's eyes seem to glimmer with excitement as he can be seen visibly trying to hold back his squeals. Aizawa goes onto the padding and takes a stance, waiting. Izuku quickly equips the gear he got earlier that day and excitedly takes a stance on the mats. Acting as referee, Tsukachi whistles to signal the start of the match and the 2 begin sparring in a flurry of movements. Feet, elbows, knees, and fists can be seen as they weave and dodge attacks, both landing occasional blows on each other. Neither of them use their quirks as they know the purpose of this match. 20 minutes of this pass before Aizawa's experience wins out and he pins Izuku on the mat. Izuku may have lost the match, but he has won something worth the loss. That was longer than I expected it to be. You're more skilled than I thought you'd be. Found very few openings, and without my experience I might have lost. I agree to teach you to fight to the best of my abilities so long as you agree to do your best. Aizawa says with his Totoro smile. Izuku beams through the sweat rolling off him. In the end the 5 of them return to Nezu's office and plan out together what Izuku would learn under Nezu and Aizawa's mentorship. Academics, Nezu. Physical training, Aizawa. With this outline in place, all Izuku has to do is absorb the information given to him like the sponge he is. The Midoriyas go home after the meeting and relax for the rest of the night. Status screen. Name, Midoriya Izuku. Level, 15. EXP, 3,904,000. Title, The Gamer. HP, 625. MP, 493. Attributes, Sir 30. Vit 25. Dex 22. Will 31. In 54. Wis 29. Cha 23. Jai 34. Attribute points, 20. Money 33,000 yen. Skill points 79. Skills. Gamer's Mind Max. This skill gives the user immunity to common status ailments such as charm, anger, fear, sadness. Passive skill. Gamer's Body Max. This skill makes the body of the user that of a video game character and exponentially increases the growth rate of the user. Passive skill. Observe 1520. This skill allows the user to see the stats of anything, though is dependent on level and in the case of sentient being, closeness. At current level, without any acquaintanceship, the following can be seen on any given being. Name, age, title, level, quirk, last uses, crimes committed, attributes. Passive skill. Item Dungeon 410. This skill allows the user to open a dungeon, a place where money, materials, and EXP and be obtained. Each dungeon is dependent on the quality of the item. Note that sentient beings cannot be used with Item Dungeon. MP cost 25, active skill. Cure Heal 610. This skill allows the user to heal minor and moderate wounds at the current level of MP cost 6, active skill. Fire Breath 1220. This allows the user's lungs and throat to be fireproof, also adding a small ignition organ within the mouth. This allows the user to breathe fire as well as eat it to regain HP. MP cost 5, active skill. Artisan 710 lowers the amount of materials needed to craft items as well as raises the quality of said crafted items. This skill also increases material drops within item dungeons by 3x. Passive skill. Economy 510 increases the chances of randomly receiving a discount when shopping based on the CHA attribute. Currently at 23%. Increased money drops within item dungeons. Passive skill. Enchant 710. Depending on what you imagine when using the skill and how much MP you use, the user can add up to plus 50 of any effect they want to any article of clothing, jewelry, or weapon they want. Limit of 5 different effects to any one item. Per plus 1 effect is dependent on what attribute is changed. MP cost 6 per plus 1 active skill. Taming 1050. This skill allows the user to befriend a creature and keep them as an ally. Tamed monsters do not take up party slots. When asleep, injured, or simply not in use, the tamed monster is stored in a card that can then be summoned for as long as the user is alive. User does not need to be conscious to keep a monster out after it is summoned. Summon monster can summon itself if its user is in danger of serious injury or death. At higher levels, this skill allows the user to use the tamed monster's abilities. In the event that a tamed monster's HP hits 0, they are turned back into a card until they are healed. Magic and skills can be used on the tamed monster to shorten its recovery time. It's kinda like a pet but better, so remember to care for and feed your monster friends. They have feelings too. Monster cards can be stored in inventory but not when they are out of their card state. MP cost 15 for initial card creation and 5 for every summon after. Telekinesis 510 allows the user to use a base level telekinesis that grows with practice. Allows for moving objects up to 30 kilograms 66 pounds at level. MP cost 5 active skill. Teleport 410 allows the user to teleport to any place on the map. MP cost 5 active skill. HP recovery max recovers the user's HP over time. At max level, full recovery from 0 to max takes 30 minutes. Passive skill. MP recovery max recovers the user's MP over time. At max level, full recovery from 0 to max takes 30 minutes. Passive skill. Medium 715 allows the user to summon and communicate with the dead. MP cost 7 active skill. Capoeira 2 max allows the user to know and use intermediate level capoeira. Passive skill. Muay Thai 2 max allows the user to know and use intermediate level Muay Thai. Passive skill. Green Thumb 1-5 allows the user to obtain X2 crops per harvest. This skill also allows for a passive boost of speed for plant growth. Passive skill. Once the Midoriyas return home, Izuku is sent off to bed. However, Izuku finds himself unable to calm down enough to sleep properly at the thought of starting his lessons tomorrow and meeting the other staff of UA. So, into the dead of night, he works on his notebooks and Quirk binder that he usually keeps in his inventory. Izuku works until the wee hours of the morning when he falls asleep at his desk, just a few hours before he has to wake up for school. Those 4 hours pass into the morning as his alarm sounds off loudly. He groans as it goes off and slowly peels his face away from his desk, revealing a red sleep mark. Then there is a knock at the door and his mother sounds off saying, "Izuku, sweetie. It's time to wake up. You have school soon." He jumps with a small yelp of surprise. Inko hears and asks what happened. "I was just startled. I didn't get much sleep since I was a bit too excited," he says as Inko opens the door to see sleep marks on his face. She giggles and say, "Well, I can't really blame you for that. I know you must be feeling many emotions about starting your lessons." Izuku nods and sighs. "I should get ready for school. I'll be down in a few minutes, Mom," he says to her as he goes and takes his uniform off its hanger. Inko nods and leaves the room, closing the door with a click. Izuku quickly gets dressed for school and goes about his normal morning routine. Soon, he heads downstairs for a quick bite of breakfast before leaving for school. A 20-minute walk later, Izuku is in his seat behind Katsuki and quietly observing his classmates. Once school started, the day passed in a flash with Izuku learning little to nothing new. Only the last class of the day proved fruitful in any way, as Izuku gained 3 points each to STR, PX, and AGI from gym class. Attributes: Thur 33, Vit 25, Dex 25, Will 31, Int 54, Wis 29, Cha 23, Chai 37. When the day ends, Izuku says his goodbyes to Katsuki and heads for the train station. About 25 minutes of travel time later, Izuku is in front of Nezu's office door, knocking. "Come in, Izuku. We can chat for a bit while we wait for your mother to get here. I believe she asked for a half-day today, so she should be leaving by now," Nezu says as Izuku sits down. "Tea," Nezu offers. Izuku nods and takes the cup of tea. 30 minutes pass by fast as the two talk, and soon Inko walks through the door. Izuku hugs his mother and she kisses his head as Nezu hops down from his desk. "Well then, shall we introduce you two to the rest of my staff?" Nezu suggests as Izuku bounces on the ball of his feet in excitement. The trio walks down the hall to the faculty office, where they find Aizawa and several teachers doing their after-school work, grading papers and such. "Good evening, everyone," Nezu says as Izuku makes a beeline straight for Aizawa and greets him. "Hello, sensei. How was your day?" The child greets him excitedly. Aizawa smiles into his capture weapon. "Figured. It's been okay. How was school?" he replies. Izuku sighs with a pout on his face. "It was so boring. They didn't teach anything I didn't already know. I got to see Kaken though, and I got 3 attribute points in strength, dexterity, and agility each from gym class." Izuku explains with a pout, then a pleased smile on his face. "I see. Yeah, that does kinda SCK. I wonder if it'd be better for you in the long run to just study under Nezu instead of going to school. Maybe bring it up to your mom before she leaves," Aizawa replies. Izuku thinks for a moment and nods. "That would probably be for the best. I'll talk to her about it later," he says, then hurries back over to his mother just as Nezu calls for everyone's attention. "Attention, please. I have some people to introduce you to. These are the Midoriyas, and Izuku here has recently become my personal student. Please treat them well, as you will be seeing them around the campus frequently," Nezu announces as the staff minus Aizawa look varying degrees of shocked and horrified. After a moment of silence, someone breaks it. "If it makes any of you feel any better, he is also learning CQC from me," Aizawa says, knowing that it'll just make it worse. A few of the staff like Midnight and 13 quietly facepalm and sigh, knowing this too. Most simply groan and faceplant on the desks in front of them. Mike is frighteningly quiet for a moment. "So he isn't a small green bean?" he finally says. Inko is the first to laugh, and when she is done she says, "He is. The only difference is that he knows it and uses it well." After that, Nezu and Aizawa laugh too. Well, more like cackle and chuckle respectively. Present Mike laughs wholeheartedly at the fact that she even knew what he meant. "I see you are cultured, ma'am," he says with a fancy accent. Inko laughs again. "Well, I learned through my husband. He really likes pre-Quirk internet memes. I've come to like them too," she says as Midnight and Mick's faces light up. The other staff groan once more, and Aizawa rolls his eyes and smiles into his capture weapon again as the trio of adults seem to become fast friends. "Well, Izuku is supposed to take his placement test today, so we shall be in my office. Inko, you are free to come with us, or you can hang out here with Mike and Midnight if you wish. Whichever you want," Nezu says as he heads back to his office with Izuku in tow. Inko turns in their direction and waves. "Oh, have fun, Izuku. I'll see you when you're done. Good luck, honey," she says and receives a bright smile in return. "You have fun too, ma'am. I love you. Don't get into too much trouble," he says to her with a joking laugh. She laughs in return and nods as she turns back to her conversation companions. Izuku then followed Nezu back to his office and began on his tests. About 2 hours passed before Izuku was done with the test, and once he was done, Nezu immediately took the papers and started grading, telling him to wait with his mom. Izuku scurried off back to the faculty office, eagerly awaiting his results. Another 30 minutes passed before Nezu came back with the results of the test. In that time Izuku hung out with his mom, Aizawa, Mike and Midnight. Mike and Midnight soon became attached to the mother-son duo and quickly became close with the small family. Finally, Nedu walks through the open door with a smile and the graded papers in hand. Mrs. Inko. Izuku. I am happy to announce that Izuku placed rather high on this test. He scored in the same bracket as an above-average second-year college student. His overall score is 93%, which is only made more amazing by the fact that he isn't even half the age of an average participant of this test. Nedu informs the mother-son duo as they beam happily. Surrounding them, Mike, Aizawa, and Midnight look on with fond smiles. Then Izuku suddenly remembers something from earlier and brings it up to his mom. Mama, I almost forgot to ask, do you think I could switch to online school or test out? I'm not learning anything new at that school and they haven't made any effort to give me harder work when I asked before. Plus, I only have Kaken as a real friend so there isn't even that to keep me there. I see him all the time since they live down the street. Izuku rambles his pleas as Inko just smiles and waits for him to finish. Once Izuku is done, she pats his curly hair and giggles. Honey, there's no need to beg. I promise. If you think either of those options is better for you, then I say go for it. I will say though, to apply for any harder courses, you'll have to test out first so they know you have learned what you needed to first. She says to Izuku. Nedu nods and interjects briefly. She's right, and if you're both amicable to the idea, I'd like to make a suggestion for Izuku's path moving forward. He says. The mother and son both nod and listen to the Chimera's ideas. My suggestion for after you've tested out is to apply for college. I also advise majoring in Quirk science. It is something you are already good at but could also learn more about. I also theorize that the classes will provide better and more rewarding quests as a result of being more advanced than your previous classes. Nedu explained. To the two. Inko nods. Let's make that appointment now. She says and calls the number that Nedu gave her while they were discussing it. After about 45 minutes the appointment was set for the end of the month, October 31st. In the meantime for Izuku's schooling the three of them agreed that Izuku would be pulled from Aldra Elementary and will learn full-time from Nedu until he can apply for college. Once the conversation was over, Inko left for home while Izuku spent the rest of his time with Nedu until it was time for him to go home. At around 8 p.m., Mike and Aizawa drove him home and walked him to the door. As soon as he was inside he ate dinner, showered and went to bed. The next morning Izuku and Inko get dressed and ready for their day. They eat breakfast and head out to Aldra. Once there they ask to see the principal, who tells the secretary to send them in. Inko immediately gets to the point and tells him that she is pulling Izuku from school because they haven't met any of his academic needs. He asks how she came to that conclusion, so she explains to him that Izuku has told her of the times when he would ask for harder work only to be met with being ignored. She also tells him that Izuku is bored in his classes because the work is so easy. Inko even goes as far as retelling some of the events of recent times, including how he came to be taking lessons from Nedu. As soon as Aldra's principal hears that, he assumes she is lying and says so to her face. Now because she knows she isn't lying, she just smiles and taps a contact in her phone, as she puts the call on speaker waiting for them to answer. Soon from the other end comes the distinct voice of UA's principal. Inko. Good morning. How did everything go with pulling Izuku from that school? He greets cheerfully to the utter surprise of the other, now pale, principal across from Inko. Hello Nedu. Good morning to you too. I'm calling because Izuku's principal is being difficult with the topic of his withdrawal. He even thought I was lying about you taking the reins of Izuku's education. Inko explains with a furrow of her brows. It's true, sensei. He called Mama a liar. Izuku pipes in with an angry pout on his face. Aldra's principal seems to realize right then the situation he put himself in and quietly takes out the proper paperwork with a defeated look on his face. The mother and son say their goodbyes to Nedu and hang up. That it only takes a few minutes to fill out the papers after that, and once that is done, the mother/son duo leave the elementary school and head for UA to drop off Izuku for his lessons. As Izuku gets out of the car, he waves at his mom and passes through the gate with his key card. On his way to Nezu's office, he passes Aizawa's classroom and waves at him. Since his students aren't paying attention to him, he grins and waves back. Izuku makes it to Nezu's office soon after and they begin their lessons. In reality, they are just having a grand old time talking about 4 different but equally interconnected things. These topics being psychology, Quirk science, sociology, hero society. The two of them went through so much tea in that span of time that the small trash can next to Nezu's desk was almost a quarter full of used tea leaves. The two of them talked for hours at a time, only taking breaks for lunch and bathroom. They got so into their discussions that when Aizawa came to get Izuku for his own lessons, he overheard the two talking about theories they both have regarding Izuku's quirk and its potential. Soon they notice the time and Nezu dismisses Izuku from their lessons. Soon after, Aizawa leads Izuku to a different training room than before. This one was all matte flooring and filled with sensory objects. He explains to Izuku that this particular gym is for meditation and anxiety prevention de-escalation. He then begins their lesson with a lecture on vigilantism and safety rules. After that was settled, Aizawa starts Izuku on meditation first as a way to center his focus, so he sits down with his legs crossed, back straight, and muscles as relaxed as they can be. Izuku seems to understand and copies his position. When he does that, Aizawa gives a brief explanation on meditation. Meditation can be different for everyone, so if what I suggest doesn't seem to work for you, then tell me. We can try other things, but let's start with this method. Relax your body and slowly breathe in and out. Once you have a rhythm to your breathing, focus on feeling. Focus on anything but your thoughts. You can start by focusing on your breathing. If your attention is caught by another sense like smell or sound, go ahead and let your focus shift to that other thing. After a bit it might feel like your senses are sharper. That is how you know it's working. For me, it's my hearing that seems to get sharper. However, it can be different for everyone. For now, let's begin and see where this session takes us. He says from his position on the floor. Izuku nods and begins to follow his instructions. Izuku does as he is instructed and finds a rhythm to his breathing first. Within a few moments he finds it and focuses on that rhythm. Seconds later his senses pick up a pleasant but faint scent of tea and sage, to which his focus shifts to immediately. A moment later, he can hear the white noise of the AC going. Soon he is completely relaxed and kinda sleepy. That only lasts a second though before he gets a notice from his quirk. Notice. Maximum MP has increased by new maximum MP. Izuku startles out of his relaxed state at the sudden sound of his quirk. Aiza notices Izuku has stopped and turns to him, only to see that he's reading the notice over again. What's wrong? Did something happen? He asks Izuku. The boy nods and shows him the notice. Aizawa doesn't seem surprised and says this. I had my suspicions that something like this might happen, so let's continue. He tells Izuku, to which he nods and gets back into position, and they stay like that for another 2.5 hours before a timer goes off to tell them to stop their lesson for the day. The scale of time per MP gained is something along these lines. 1 minute, plus 5 MP. 5 minutes, plus 25 MP. 10 minutes, plus 50 MP. 15 minutes, plus 75 MP. 20 minutes, plus 100 MP. 25 minutes, plus 125 MP. 30 minutes, plus 150 MP. Notice, maximum MP has increased by new maximum MP is with the lesson over. Izuku gathers his things together and they both hop into Aizawa's car to drop off Izuku at home for some much-deserved food and rest. About 1 hour after he gets home, Izuku is fed and bathed before he heads to bed for a restful sleep. Status screen. Name, Midoriya Izuku. Level, 15. EXP, 3,904,000. Title, The Gamer. HP, 675. MP, 1365. Attributes, 35. Vit, 27. Dex, 28. Will, 34. Int, 54. Wis, 35. Cha, 25. AGI, 39. Attribute points, 0. Money, 33,000 yen. Skill points, 64. Skills. Gamer's Mind, max, This skill gives the user immunity to common status ailments such as charm, anger, fear, sadness. Passive skill. Gamer's body, max. This skill makes the body of the user that of a video game character and exponentially increases the growth rate of the user. Passive skill. Observe 1520. This skill allows the user to see the stats of anything though is dependent on level and in the case of sentient being, closeness. At current level, without any acquaintanceship, the following can be seen on any given being. Name, age, title, level, quirk, last uses, crimes committed, attributes. Passive skill. Item dungeon 510. This skill allows the user to open a dungeon, a place where money materials and EXP and be obtained. Each dungeon is dependent on the quality of the item. Note that sentient beings cannot be used with item dungeon. MP cost 25, active skill. Cure Heal 610. This skill allows the user to heal minor and moderate wounds at the current level of MP cost 4, active skill. Fire Breath 1220. This allows the user's lungs and throat to be fireproof, also adding a small ignition organ within the mouth. This allows the user to breathe fire as well as eat it to regain HP. MP cost 5, active skill. Artisan Max. Lowers the amount of materials needed to craft items as well as raises the quality of said crafted items. This skill also increases material drops within item dungeons by 3x. Passive skill. Economy, max. Increases the chances of randomly receiving a discount when shopping based on the CHA attribute. Currently at 23%. Increased money drops within item dungeons. Passive skill. Enchant 710. Depending on what you imagine when using this skill and how much MP you use, the user can add up to plus 50 of any effect they want to any article of clothing, jewelry, or weapon they want. Limit of 5 different effects to any one item. Per plus 1 effect is dependent on what attribute is changed. MP cost 6 per plus 1 active skill. Taming 1050. This skill allows the user to befriend a creature and keep them as an ally. Tamed monsters do not take up party slots. When asleep, injured, or simply not in use, the tamed monster is stored in a card that can then be summoned for as long as the user is alive. User does not need to be conscious to keep a monster out after it is summoned. Summon monster can summon itself if its user is in danger of serious injury or death. At higher levels, this skill allows the user to use the tamed monster's abilities. In the event that a tamed monster's HP hits 0, they are turned back into a card until they are healed. Magic and skills can be used on the tamed monster to shorten its recovery time. It's kinda like a pet but better, so remember to care for and feed your monster friends. They have feelings too. Monster cards can be stored in inventory but not when they are out of their card state. MP cost 15 for initial card creation and 5 for every summon after. Telekinesis 510 allows the user to use a base level telekinesis that grows with practice. Allows for moving objects up to 50 kilograms 110 pounds at level. MP cost 5, active skill. Teleport 410 allows the user to teleport to any place on the map. MP cost 5, active skill. HP recovery, max, recovers the user's HP over time. At max level, full recovery from 0 to max takes 30 minutes. Passive skill. MP recovery, max, recovers the user's MP over time. At max level, full recovery from 0 to max takes 30 minutes. Passive skill. Medium 715 allows the user to summon and communicate with the dead. MP cost 7, active skill. Capoeira 2 max allows the user to know and use intermediate level capoeira. Passive skill. Muay Thai 2 max allows the user to know and use intermediate level Muay Thai. Passive skill. Green Thumb max allows the user to obtain X2 crops per harvest. This skill also allows for a passive boost of speed for plant growth. Passive skill. October 6th, 2XXX. 6 a.m. Saturday. Izuku wakes up to the sound of his Quirk's alarm going off in his head and immediately remembers the discoveries from yesterday's training session with Aizawa. He's fully awake by now and heads downstairs to have breakfast with his mom before he gets ready for the day. After breakfast he goes back to his room and gets dressed in his normal casual clothes of a t-shirt and cargo shorts. Once dressed he does the most recent addition to his routine, meditation. 30 minutes later, Izuku receives a couple of notifications. Notice: maximum MP has increased by new maximum MP. Izuku smiles as he dismisses the screens and heads back downstairs, out the door with his mom to the Bakuga's house for a day of exploring more item dungeons. Somewhere in the city the day before, a heavily scarred teenager is tipped off by a trusted informant that something is going down and that the pro-hero endeavor might fall from grace soon. The next few days for this teen are spent mulling over the pros and cons of coming forward with his own information. Then on the 10th of October, he finally comes to a decision and heads straight for Mustafu police station asking for Tsukachi. After speaking to this teenager, Tsukachi is horrified but not shocked. Everything the teen now known to be Tuya Todoroki said was flagged as true by his Quirk. He already knew most of this thanks to Izuku's Quirk, but the claims of Tuya corroborating the information they had along with the documented evidence Tuya brought in only proved to better the case against the wolf in sheep's clothing that is Enji Todoroki. Tuya agreed to be placed in protective custody with Tsukachi as his guardian, and once the proper people were contacted, the detective filled out his own paperwork to be the guardian of Tuya for the time being. The 15th of October comes around and Tuya has been settling in with Tsukachi as well as can be expected. The meeting to discuss the new evidence is today, and Tsukachi asks Sansa to watch Tuya while he is in this meeting. October 15th, 2XXX. 11 a.m. Monday. Tsukachi arrives at the meeting and watches as the members file in one by one. The last to arrive is President Nakai as she begins the meeting. Thank you everyone for coming and welcome. Meeting shouldn't take too long as it only covers a couple things, she says and pauses for a moment before continuing. About 5 days ago, Tuya Todoroki came forward with more evidence against his father. He is currently in protective custody with Tsukachi. We have confirmed his identity as well as the information he brought with him. While we're on the topic, how is Tuya doing? He has been doing better than when he came to us. He seems to be receptive to clear and honest communication, Tsukachi says with a soft smile as the others nod in understanding. That is good to hear. I'm glad he seems to be settling well. Now on to a related topic. It has been brought to my attention that Izuku wants to meet Tuya. I think it could only bring good things, but I wanted to get everyone's thoughts and opinions first. Does anyone see any problems or have any concerns? President Nakai says. The other participants take a few minutes to think, and all of them voice that they see no issue with the idea, so President Nakai continues. I see. Thank you everyone for giving it proper thought and coming to an agreement. Tsukachi, I trust one can leave the arrangements to you, seeing as you are a mutual party between the two. A word of advice: I think if Tuya learns what Izuku has done, he will be more than willing to meet him. Tsukachi smiles at the president's statement and nods. Well, that should be all. Does anyone have anything of note to add? The president asks. Nedu decides to speak up. As some but not all of you know, I have taken Izuku as my personal student. He is also doing age-appropriate physical training under one of my staff, Eraserhead, for those that know of him. Around the room, some of the other members can be seen with shocked expressions while some just nod. With that, the meeting ends and everyone returns to their regular schedule. On the way back to his apartment, Tsukachi calls Inko and informs her of the conclusion everyone agreed to. That's wonderful. Do you think Tuya would agree? Izuku has been excited to meet him, but we don't want to make him feel like he has to. If he does agree, what date would work for you two? Inko says. Tsukachi ponders a second before giving her an answer. If it's okay, I think this Saturday will work. I'm almost home, so I'll talk to Tuya when I get there. Hopefully I'll see you two Saturday. Until then, bye and tell Izuku I said hi. Alright, that should work. Absolutely, I'll make sure he gets the message. See you soon. She replies and hangs up with a click. Tsukachi smiles and continues on his way home. I'm home, he greets as Tuya comes out of the guest room he's been staying in. The teen sees Tsukachi and nods his own greeting. I have news to share with you. I think you'll like it, but I'll leave you to decide that. Tsukachi says to Tuya. Sansa takes that as his cue to leave. See you at work now. the cat-headed officer says as he waves to the two on his way out the door. So what's this news you think I'll like? Tuya asks. Tsukachi smiles and gestures for him to sit on the couch. Tuya does and Tsukachi tells him the news. As you know, the meeting I just came from was to brief everyone on the progress of the case and discuss one other thing as well. The other topic of discussion was whether or not it was a good idea to allow you to meet a certain someone. We all came to the conclusion that the two of you meeting could only benefit everyone involved, so I was tasked with first asking you if you want to meet this person as well as making any arrangements if you did agree. The person that wants to meet you is actually the person that brought everything Endeavor has done to our attention. What do you think? So you mean to tell me that the person who got the commission to investigate my donor wants to meet me? Don't they have more important things to do than meet some teenager? The teen asks. Tsukachi chuckles as the scarred teen takes a moment to think before responding. I'd like to know a bit about this person before I decide if I want to meet them. He says once his thoughts were collected. Of course, I can't tell you everything because it would take a while, but I can tell you the basics. The person in question is called Midoriya Izuku and he is 10 years old. It was actually a passive part of his quirk that allowed him to see the wrongdoings of your father. Instead of hiding it though, he did the right thing and reported everything he saw to the closest commission branch. Tsukachi told the scarred teen. As far-fetched as it sounded, Tuya could tell a lie from a mile away at this point and soon came to his decision. I'd like to meet him. I'd like to meet the person that triggered all of this with just one honest action. The teen says and Tsukachi nods in response. Gotcha. I'll text Inko. Izuku's been excited to meet you but didn't want to overwhelm you while you're trying to adjust to not being on the streets anymore. Tsukachi replies and sends Inko a quick text of confirmation. We had agreed on Saturday if you decided you wanted to meet him. Is that okay? Tsukachi continues. Tuya nods and smiles as much as his staples will allow. While Tuya and Tsukachi were having their chat, Izuku was at UA with Nedu. That morning, Nedu suggests that they explore the skill grimoire for a bit. Izuku opens his menu and taps on the right tab, opening a screen with 3 tabs at the top. The tab that shows first is one labeled Basic that lists a number of basic skills. As Izuku scrolls through, he and Nedu each see things that catch their eyes. Izuku gets curious about the other 2 tabs and clicks on the one labeled Advanced, only to see that a majority of them are locked. He clicks on one and a list of requirements pulls up. Oh, yeah. That does make more sense than just being able to buy whatever skill you want just because you might have the skill points for it. Izuku says and Nedu nods beside him. Izuku switches back to the Basic tab and clicks on the skills that interest him to see what all they entail. Craftsman, 5 SP passive. Allows the user to gain more EXP when crafting items by X2. Disable, ineffective. Allows the user to disable the ability of any number of targets for a chosen amount of time, be it a skill, magic, or quirk. MP cost at LV1 to 10 MP. MP cost at LV10 to 1 MP. Magic bullet, ineffective. Allows the user to create and control up to 10 tiny but very concentrated bullets of pure magic. MP cost at LV1 to 10 MP. MP cost at LV10 to 1 MP. He gets all 3 skills and goes back to the Advanced tab for a moment to look at one that wasn't locked and caught his interest. 25 SP. 39 SP remaining. Restraint, 20 SP active. Allows the user to temporarily cut off the skills, magic, and physical movement of a number of targets. Works by imagining the target or targets in the user's mind. MP cost at LV1 to 50 MP. MP cost at LV10 to 5 MP. He looks to Nedu who just gestures for him to continue, so Izuku buys the skill. 20 SP. 19 SP remaining. Izuku opens his inventory to see the 3 skill books for the active skills he bought. He gets comfortable in a corner of the room and takes the time to read the books manually since they add an additional level when that is done. He starts with Disable. It takes about 20 minutes to read the whole thing. Notice, the skill Disable has been acquired. Disable has risen to level the next book takes less than that at 15 minutes total. The skill Magic Bullet has been acquired. Magic Bullet has risen to level the last and only advanced skill book takes 30 minutes. The skill Restraint has been acquired. Restraint has risen to level. Well, now that that's done, why don't we go meet Aizawa at ground beta? We've been planning for the three of us to explore that item dungeon skill of yours for a while. Nedu says with a clap of his paws. Izuku nods and closes the screens before following the principal to the training grounds. After a quick stroll through the school, the duo has arrived at their destination. Aizawa is there to provide backup in the combat department since Nedu isn't a combat-type hero. Thankfully, it's his free PRD and he is caught up on his grading for the moment. Aizawa greets them and Izuku proceeds to tell him all about his new skills he bought. The teacher listens and congratulates his student with a small, fond smile that is hidden by his capture weapon. Okay, what should we have you use your skill on? Nedu ponders out loud. Izuku takes a moment to think. Well, that depends on how hard you want the dungeon to be since the quality of the item is one of the factors of how the difficulty is decided. The item itself also changes the theme and enemy type of the dungeon. Izuku explains. He then pulls out from his inventory a jar of honey, an iron ingot, and a ginseng root. Maybe one of these? He suggests. After a moment of thought, he adds to his statement. I kinda want to go into the iron ingot so I can collect more of them. I've been wanting to experiment with my crafting tab. Nedu and Aizawa nod in understanding as the former motions for him to continue as planned. Alright, let's head off then. Item dungeon. Izuku shouts excitedly and immediately a flash of light engulfs them. When they open their eyes again, the trio are all in the dungeon. Though, it looks very different from the last time Izuku went into one. This time the starting area isn't at the entrance of a combat zone but the entrance of a town. Before Izuku can say anything, a notice interrupts him. Notice. By item dungeon reaching level 5, you now have access to the features of Dungeon Town. These features include 2 guilds, the Market and the Tavern. The 2 guilds are the Adventurers Guild and the Commerce Guild, where the former issues quests for monster extermination, investigations, and material gathering. The latter of the two is where one can also take quests for material gathering and bodyguarding. The Commerce Guild also serves as a place to bulk sell and buy whatever you can think of. They also buy and sell land within the town and territory. The market is similar to the Commerce Guild in the fact that you can buy and sell there, but the difference is that the market doesn't bulk buy and sell. You can only buy and sell a limited quantity of things before they refer you to the Commerce Guild. The tavern is simply for socializing and finding information. You also now have access to a submap of this town so you can find your way around. Happy hunting! Well, that explains a bit. I was wondering why this place looked different from last time I was here. Izuku says. I guess we should explore the town. I'm assuming we can't go into the combat zones without going through at least the Adventurers Guild first, he continued. The other two nod and follow Izuku to the Adventurers Guild. They arrive to see people milling about and talking to one another. The trio seems to catch the attention of some people, probably because they are unfamiliar faces in a semi-small town. Izuku and his teachers move towards the reception desk where the clerk looks up and seeing they are unfamiliar faces, she asks if they are here to register or submit a request. We're here to register as adventurers. I'm Izuku and these are my teachers, he says as he gestures beside him. Shoyuta Aizawa. Nedu. They introduce themselves as she pulls out 3 sheets of paper. I see. Well, I'll need all 3 of you to fill out this paperwork and touch our confirmation crystal to verify the information you've put down, she says as she hands them each a sheet of paper. The paper asks for 4 pieces of information: name, age, species, and class. They all quickly fill them out and hand the papers back to her. Name, Izuku Midoriya. Age, 10 years old. Species, human. Class, tactician. Name, Shoyuta Aizawa. Age, 25 years old. Species, human. Class, pheasant. Age, 50 years old. Species, chimera. Class, grandmaster. Once she looks over the papers, she nods and gestures for them to follow her. They arrive at a back room with a crystal ball-like object on a table. This is a confirmation crystal. It is a magic item that verifies the validity of information via touch. If the information matches each other, the applicant is accepted. She explains and gestures for the first applicant to step forward. Izuku goes first, touching the crystal. It glows blue and displays the same information that's on the paper. Nedu and Aizawa each go after that and they receive the same reaction. The clerk then goes over to a shelf with another contraption on it that has just finished spitting out 3 metal cards with their name, class, and rank on it. Izuku Midoriya. Tactician. Frankfurt. Shoyuda Aizawa. Tazu. Frankfurt. Heads. Grandmaster. Frankfurt. They pocket their cards and follow the clerk as she explains the rank system. She also shows them the jobs boards for rank E and D. She then hands them each a paper with the rank up requirements. Rank requirements. E to D. Defeat or capture 50 rank monsters. D to C. Defeat or capture 40 rank D monsters. C to B. 5 escort jobs completed. Defeat or capture 30 rank C monsters. B to A. 10 escort jobs completed. Defeat or capture 20 rank B monsters. A to S. 5 noble escort jobs completed. Defeat or capture 10 rank A monsters. S to SS. 10 noble escort jobs completed. Defeat or capture 5 rank S monsters. They then go over to the rank E board and immediately find a job hunting some wood golem. Rank Monster Extermination. Defeat 10 wood golems and bring back their cores as proof of extermination. Note, if you defeat more than 10 wood golems, we will pay extra. Reward, 1,000 yen and any looted items aside from the cores. 100 yen per extra wood golem core. They tear it off and take it to the clerk for approval. She stamps it and they head off towards the woods where Izuku's map says the monsters are. The trio follow the map and find the monsters' den pretty quickly. I can see more than one golem ahead. Izuku whispers to his teachers. As soon as they are close enough, Izuku activates 2 of his skills in a unison of burning magic. He opens his mouth and shouts, "Hot shots!" The moment he finishes speaking, about 5 balls of fire magic exit his mouth as he directs them towards the golems guarding the outside of the den. It only takes a minute for the golems to burn to ash piles. The ash disappears with a shimmer of light, leaving behind decently sized piles of 8 2x4 plumber pieces as well as small sacks of money that totaled to about 5,000 yen. Plus 5 wood golem cores. Plus 40 lumber. Plus 5,000 yen. Plus 5,000 EXP. You have leveled up to because you activated 2 skills at the same time, you have created a new skill. Hot Shots has been created. Hot Shots has leveled up to. The trio continues through the den of golems as they deal with 3 more waves of them. Plus 15 wood golem cores. Plus 120 lumber. Plus 15,000 yen. Plus 15,000 EXP. You have leveled up to. Congratulations. You have reached a milestone level. You have received plus 5 points to all attributes and plus 20 skill points. Hot Shots has leveled up to new max HP, 800. New max MP, 2195 2195. Oh heck yeah. I leveled up and it's an increment level so I gain extra stats and skill points. The artisan skill I have is really helping me rack up the materials too. The same is happening with the economy skill. Izuku says as he gathers his drops. Boss monster has spawned. Caution. Here comes the last wave. The boss has spawned too. He tells his teachers. They arrive at the last clearing in the den as the boss monster notices them. They take down the last 5 wood golems and start on the boss, an iron golem. Izuku knows that simply burning it to ash won't work so he uses a different strategy. Restraint. He shouts, freezing the boss in place as he activates a second skill with another shout. Magic Bullet. He bellows as the maximum of 10 bullets manifest and shoot towards the iron golem, repeatedly bombarding its weak points in its joints. After about 20 hits to each joint, the boss crumbles to pieces, revealing about 20 iron ingots and a large bag similar to the previously smaller bags of money. Plus 1 iron golem core. Plus 20 iron ingots. Plus 10,000 yen. Plus 10,000 EXP. You have leveled up to 3,000 5,000 EXP. Attributes. SAR 40. Vit 32. Dex 33. Will 39. In 59. Wis 40. Cha 30. GI 44. Attribute points, 35. Money 65,000 yen. Skill points 39. Well, that's done. We should head back and report our successful job to the guild. Izuku says as he turns back to his teachers. I theorize that you won't need our help with these guild quests until about rank C or B. We'll accompany you through, just to put your mother's mind at ease until she decides otherwise. Nedu says with a thoughtful look on his face. Aizawa nods next to him and adds his own 2 cents as well. You did very well and were careful despite the opponents being quite a bit weaker than you. It's always a good idea to keep your guard up in situations like those. Izuku nods at him and starts heading back to the guild, his teachers not far behind. 30 minutes later, they find themselves at the front desk of the Adventurers Guild where they slide the stamped paper and their guild cards onto the counter, along with the sack of 20 wood golem cores and 1 iron golem core. The clerk looks at them and checks the paper as well as the number of cores in the bag. As she counts the number of cores and finds the iron golem core, she can't help but be shocked. She finishes confirming the completion of the job and updates the records on their guild cards. Once she is done, she hands them a small bag of money along with their guild cards. Good work out there, you 3. Here's your reward money and guild cards back, she says with a smile. Izuku nods and they leave the guild hall to explore the town a bit more. Hey y'all, sorry it took so long for me to update. Thanks for being patient though. I appreciate it. It has been a hot minute since I've posted anything. I've been trying to figure out how to proceed with this story off and on for months, but in the end I can't seem to get things going from the current point I stopped at. So, I'm going to rewrite this story a bit. There are plenty of mistakes in the current version that need dealt with, and I'm not really satisfied with what I already wrote. I'll be keeping this version up until I decide to post a version I'm satisfied with. Thank you to everyone who has been supporting this FIC, and hopefully the new version will pique your interest.